It's the Owl Show, bringing my love from me to you. The Owl Show, help me help you to help me help you. The Owl Show, bringing my love from me to you. The Owl Show, help me help you to help me help you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon/evening's show. Today I have Jason Lewis. How are you, Jason?
Good. How's everybody out there?
Well, let's have a look. I'll just read through a few messages and see who we've got in here today. Question Comics. Welcome, first off the rank. This stream is going to be awful. Jack Ash is here. Jack, you're here so early, 23 minutes. Oh, thank you for being here. Gable Pennyshot, welcome back. We only come for the intro. I hope not. I hope not. Come for the intro, stick around for the conversation. That's what I say. Spirit Scar is here. What guest has cancelled on Oz today? Guess what? I found a guest who's not going to cancel.
You got a lot of guests that cancel?
We had to dance around, didn't we, Jason, to get you on here?
Yeah, mainly because we're on opposite sides of the planet. You know, we had to find a day where I was around it, early in the morning, I guess.
How early is it for you?
It's like 11 a.m. It's not crazy early, but
it's basically like the crack of dawn, yeah?
Yeah, but like, I mean, in the live stream world, I mean, it might as well be, at the crack of dawn.
Yeah. I think this show inhabits a unique spot. Jack Ash says, Oz having guests is like Mindy Wheeler leaving CG. Is it ever going to happen? I regularly have lots of guests, Jason. Don't let them fool you. It's just I am battling some forces of Wu Flu and other things where I've got some creators that are like dying, so that they book in to come on, but then they're all sort of dying at once.
Yeah, the COVID.
So, yeah. But don't you worry. They all stick around because they know I get good quality guests on.
Good. Well, I can guarantee you'll get at least maybe 12 more guests. I mean, 12 more viewers from a war campaign sniping this. So.
Oh well, I hope they're all in here watching.
Well, no, they're going to be on like whatever Angel Fire site that they do their live streams on now. Stream sniping you, so I mean, you'll get some more viewers.
Brother Gare says, you're actually promoting your IGG campaign. You've changed, Oz. No, what happened was I was at a birthday party and I had to book this. I had to put the thingy in press the buttons on the thingy, but I had to do it with my mobile phone instead of my computer. And I didn't have my normal picture on my phone that I have on my computer. So that's why the image for this is like all that I had on my phone, which is a picture of Liam. That's a bit sad, isn't it, Jason? The only thing I have on my phone is a picture of Liam as an orange koala.
Yeah, none of this makes sense to me, so I'll just I'll go with it. Sure. I will say birthday party sounds kind of weird after you're a certain age. Because like when you think birthday party, you're still thinking of like cake and like little paper hats and balloons and whatnot. You're not really thinking of like adults,
Yeah,
coming
but you have
together
to
celebrate.
realize it's nighttime for me here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. What do you want to know?
And I have children. I have children, Jason. You obviously don't have children, do you?
No, I don't have kids.
Yeah, okay. See, when you have children, life repeats itself. So everything you thought that you'd grown out of is now back in vogue.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine having kids. It'd just be like me, like staring into the face of a 2-year-old going, "You have to take over. I can't do this. You have to take charge. I'm never going to figure out how to work the stove. I've had too long. You have to figure out how to work the stove." So yeah, I don't know. Not equipped for kids.
Fair enough. How old are you, Jason, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know. I'm old enough. Let me
in a range. Like, can you give me a range? You don't have to.
I mean, I'm like, in your basically in like your professional comic creator range. I've been doing this for about 12 years. So, is that actually Ethan?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. You do have viewers. It's quality, not quantity.
I try desperately not to talk about Ethan Van Sciver on my show because,
why not?
I try to have my own life, but it's like point of origin.
I will say to get
the epicenter, and it always just seems to come back to him for some reason.
To get into the topic at hand, I tend to like whatever clients do. I tend to not really care about. It's like that's kind of their job. My job is to color comics. Whatever clients like or dislike or who they have beef with. I don't really it's not my problem. But I would say like maybe I don't know a day after I agreed to do Vestige 2, they Work Campaign had that blow up with Ethan.
Jason, relax.
Yeah. I talk fast.
We don't need to get into any nitty gritty.
No, I'll just say like they had whatever blow up they had with Ethan, and my thought was like, oh my god, you guys, like you had one job, like what's going on? But yeah, that's just like I just thought of that because Ethan popped up.
Yeah. Well, as I said, we try not to talk about Ethan on this show. I have a rule.
Oh, he's a viewer. I mean, I don't know.
It constantly gets broken because he keeps coming on my show.
Okay, well.
But I love you coming on my show, Ethan. Pilgrim Maga for $2. Oz, you're a poet and you don't even know it. Jason, can you see what's wrong with this sentence? Pilgrim Maga, I love you. Thank you for coming early today rather than at the end of yesterday. I hope you got to see the intro. What do you think about this? Can you read that?
Yeah. Oz, you're a poet and you don't even know it.
Can you see the grammatical error in there?
Besides there not being a period, you're not you are.
Yeah. That's the one. Thank you so much for that, Pilgrim. He's a great guy. He came on my show. It's the only show he's been on, and he popped on just to say how much he liked it. And it's really, really sweet thing.
The Pilgrim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get asked to do a lot of podcasts, but it's like I just they ask me and then I just never hear from them again. So I was like, hey, you want to do my podcast? Like, yeah, sure, let me know. I was like, okay. Then you're one of the few that actually follows up on that.
Well, there you go, Jason. Maybe that maybe people are chasing clout in all the wrong places, Jason.
I don't know.
What do you think? You're not popular enough to be on anyone's show but mine?
I mean, you don't see a lot of colors in general on any kind of podcast. I mean, it's really hard to find, even like the top colors. It's really hard to find, anyone who's interviewing them for anything.
Why is that?
A couple of reasons. I think people don't really understand what a colorist adds to a page, and they're used to it. They're used to being like how comics were, for decades, where they just kind of fill in the flat right colors for someone's costume. So I think part of it's like they don't even really like people don't understand what they contribute. And I think the other one is like they keep outsourcing colors to save money to like people who are like, English is not their first language. They keep outsourcing colors to like, countries where like the dollar gets more. So I mean, they're not people who are maybe the best to interview. Even some of those guys, like they have like a kind of like a manager, like a handler, like the third world kind of colorists. So I mean, you wouldn't even be talking to the colorist, you'd be talking to like their manager that like takes like 80% of the money for themselves and just gives, the other 20% to the person who actually colors it, or persons, I should say. So I think those are, two of the big contributing factors. I mean, like, it's one of those things, like, if you look at interviews about just comics in general now, I mean, it's like half the time, like, even the penciler isn't, like, interviewed. It's like they'll talk to the writer and the editor for whatever reason about, like, whatever, new hot comic is out there that they're talking about. So, yeah, it's definitely an odd time.
Jason, do you think it's also because a lot of colorists are, like, psycho douchebags?
Well, I mean, if you're going to draw the line on psycho douchebags, I mean, that's all of comics. So, I mean, like, it's not just the colorists.
Touche.
I mean, there is a theory that, like, it's easier. I mean, it's not even a theory. It's way easier to be a colorist than it is to be a penciler. I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world to be a colorist, but yeah, I mean, being a penciler takes way more skill and effort. So there's a lot of people who are colorists who get a lot of work who just kind of like slide by, so there is that. So maybe those are some of the psychos you're talking about.
Johnny Rando says colorists are people too.
Well, some of them, yeah.
Colorists are people too, damn it.
But I mean, it's a struggle just to get like your name on the cover of a book. I mean, it's really inconsistent. Like Marvel puts your name on the book, DC does, IDW does sometimes. But all the other companies, I mean, it's really just inconsistent. Even among I saw Matthews. We need more streamers interviewing flatters. It'd actually be interesting to interview some flatters.
Do you know any flatters that would like to come on?
Probably. But then again, you're talking about you're getting the gamut of like people who like work, like live in the third world and maybe English isn't their first language, to people who like are a flatter who like think they're like an important person in the industry. Like I've definitely run into some flatters who really think that they're like, almost like working for Marvel because they flat for, some guy who does work for Marvel. So yeah, you'll see that stuff a lot.
That sounds cool. That sounds like the kind of people that want to be on this show.
Well, I mean, it is impressive to like normal people. Like if you're someone who like say like flats for, I don't know, someone who's doing like, Spider-Man. I mean, like if you're like just talking to your normal friends, I mean, none of them get, to do anything to do with like a Spider-Man comic, but it's really impressive to, them, it's like, as far as they know, I mean, you're, part of like the staff at Marvel, but, among like industry people and people kind of know what's going on. Like, you're really not in the food chain as a flatter, you're subcontracted from a subcontractor.
Dark Lord Crusader asks, I wonder what the childless rate of colorists are.
I would have to say it's probably very high. I was just explaining to someone yesterday, unless you're working full-time for Marvel and DC, it's almost impossible to make a living as a colorist. I mean, I'm practically retired from coloring now. I've got a normal day job these days. But I mean, it's like,
what kind of work do you do?
I'm an internet coordinator for like a large hardware chain. So not very interesting, but it's like, it's crazy how much better it pays and how much like more sleep I get and free time I get than when I was doing comics. Because if you're
explain to me what that job means, because I can't readily identify what your day-to-day.
What it is like, it's so like you're a contractor on a job site and you're building a house or whatever, and you realize that you've gotten like, you're like 80 2x4 short, about 200 pounds, 200 pounds of nails. So you get on your phone and you go into the website and you order like, what you need from the store. And then in a half hour you come and we load it right onto your truck and you go right back to your job site. So my job is to make sure that like what you've ordered, is, coordinate the people inside, make sure I get everything that you need, exactly what you need. And then it's ready to be loaded on into your vehicle when you come in about a half hour to 45 minutes. So that's basically what it is, what I do now.
Gotcha.
So
Kind of.
yeah, I mean, it's basically just, again, it's just a quicker way instead of them going into, so like when they realize that they're like short so many boards and nails, instead of just going into the store and like, shopping themselves, they just give me a list of what they need. And then, I go to the various departments to get everything they need. And with the COVID thing, kind of kicking in, like you're getting a lot more of like just civilian customers who are doing the kind of the same thing, like people who like are fixing up their houses and, doing renovations and whatnot. So, I mean, instead of like, having to go around the store and possibly, contract COVID, like they just, order like everything they need. And again, I coordinate the store and make sure all the different departments have, the things they need. Then we, have it ready for them when they show up. So that's basically what I do.
So you're kind of like Uber for carpenters.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. I mean, again, it's a regular brick and mortar store that, people go in, and again, it's a national chain, but yeah, it's like the whole internet aspect of it has really picked up, and since the COVID thing got huge, so that's what I do. It's just me kind of like coordinating other people, going around the store, picking up stuff. It's not exciting, but I kind of like it. I mean, it's like when you're a comic artist, like one of the things that people don't understand, or any kind of freelancer, is just how isolated you are. Like, I mean, you're just, especially like if you're like not a top tier colorist, like like working for Marvel and DC, but if you're someone who's like about the second tier and below, I mean, the only way you can make up that money is by coloring in volume. So you're spending like every waking hour coloring just to try to make a living. So like, I mean, you can't, I mean, it's like you're just inside your apartment all the time coloring. It's really kind of a miserable experience, where now, like, I get to go out and talk to people and, kind of get out in the world. And when I'm done at my job, I just go home and I can do whatever I want, like I can play video games if I feel like it. I can just take a nap. I don't have any, it's like, I don't have any pressing deadline until I have to come in the next day.
Do you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend?
No, I don't currently have a girlfriend. I had one when I was living in Portland and I was coloring, and she thought it was really neat that she was dating like a colorist who was working for all these companies, until she saw like the reality of it, which is like I have to stay inside all the time. It's hard to budget money and budget time. So like if she wants to go on vacation, like in a month, like I don't know what I'm doing in a month. I may have a ton of work, I may have no work, I may have a ton of money that I have to save, unless for a time that I have no money. So yeah, I mean, the reality of like just your life, as far as your just lifestyle goes, I mean, it's like what I do now is way more conducive to any kind of like normal life than when I was a colorist. That's why you like you see a lot of these people who just go nuts on Twitter, like they seem like psychos, is because it's just the job makes them crazy. I mean, they're just alone, like under kind of crushing like career anxiety, and that like they're just not in contact with people and they're miserable. So they kind of take it out on Twitter. Is that your experience, Oz?
Kind of. Amit Rayner asks a good question here for you. He says, "What is a flatter?"
Okay,
kindly elaborate. But before you answer this,
yeah,
can you see what the problem with Amit spelling is?
oh, you forgot a T.
Yeah.
I mean,
But don't be racist, because he's English second language, so you can't be mean to him.
well, I mean, I got what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
What a flatter is, Emmett. Basically, this comes from the days when, like, the early days of computer coloring, when like it was all done by like coloring houses. Because for decades and decades, up until like maybe the late '90s, till like the image era of comics, like coloring was just a job done by production. I mean, basically, it was just filling in like the correct colors. There was a few more artistic colorists, but for the most part, I mean, it was just basically like an intern's job to like fill in between the lines. And it was this really just weird, like ungodly, like complicated process. But when Image and all those places kind of became their own different companies, they had computer coloring departments inside their, like, Wildstorm had their own department. Awesome had their own department. Everybody had their own department of computer colorists. So they did it almost kind of in an assembly line. And what they found out was it was a lot quicker if they had like an intern just fill in the basic flat shapes, like kind of like old comics used to be. So when the actual artist colorist would go in and like shade, they would keep those flat shapes on like a separate layer they can refer to, so they wouldn't have to like keep retracing the same shapes over and over again. So if a guy's working on like, say, like a face, he doesn't have to keep retracing that face every time, like he, makes some different shade, cuts in the shading. He can just refer back to that one. So that's what a flatter is. Just someone who basically does prep work for a colorist. And then when colorists became freelance, after a lot of those places, basically they got rid of their coloring departments because they kind of realized that they didn't really need it, and then a lot of people were leaving those color departments to start their own coloring like little things. And so when the rise of the freelancer came, they would still hire flatters, basically to speed up the work. Like I said, if you're doing like a bunch of pages to kind of make ends meet, like if you're working for like one of the second tier below companies, I mean, you need to hire flatter just because it just saves you time. I mean, you're taking money off your pages, which again you have to do more pages to make up for. But that's what a flatter is. Yeah, Kelsey Shannon's good. Talking to the next.
Pilgrim Maga for $2 again. Thank you so much. Says Kelsey Shannon is a god among colorists. Oz.
Well, Kelsey's. I don't know if I really consider him a colorist. I mean, he's more of just like a full painter, right? Like he doesn't color other people's line work. He colors his own stuff. Correct.
He used to be a colorist primarily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So back to Amit's question, I would say that a flatter is someone who essentially blocks out the shapes for the colorer to pick out when he's coloring.
Correct. I mean, it's one of those things, if you don't really use Photoshop a lot, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you. But basically, he just, blocks out all the shapes. And again, certain, flatters do it more elaborate than others. But yeah, he just blocks out the very basic shape. And then so I don't have to, basically.
Dark Lord Crusader says, is Jason in any Whisper networks?
No, but a while ago I saw one of your boy Zach's live streams where he was talking about like the Portland comic mafia, and like I used to be in part of that like nightly chat that he was mentioning, and it was kind of funny. It was like, these people don't have power. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, but yeah, they do whisper. So I mean, I guess he's right on that. But yeah, I thought that was funny. It was like, really, like this idiot is like in charge of comics. I don't see it, but no, I mean, like Whisper Network, a lot of times, like people who freelance, there's a few kind of big ones. They'll basically just do like nightly chats where they just talk to each other, and just so they have some kind of human contact and, kind of can talk about the industry and whatnot.
So was that a no?
So yeah, no, currently I'm in no Whisper Networks.
Not my monkeys, not my circus. Oz, for 1 minute, please assume that some of the chat do not know who Jason is. Please introduce him to us. Would you introduce yourself?
I'm Jason Lewis. I'm a professional freelance colorist. I've been doing this for about a decade, about 12 years. I've worked for most major companies. Mainly, I kind of been doing like stuff for like second tier kind of companies like IDW and whatnot. Yeah, I've done long runs on like Star Trek. I've done runs on I did Scooby-Doo for a long time, but mainly I just kind of do like fill-in stuff here and there. I've been kind of doing that for a while. I guess it's been hard to make ends meet. I do stuff independently pretty often. I really don't like working with indie people for the most part, because like there tend to be problems kind of like what I'm having with Vestige right now. But yeah, I mean, I do it, not everyone is a problem. There's some great people out there who are really easy to work with, but yeah, now I'm kind of semi-retired from coloring just because, it's just kind of one of those things where there's just only so long I can beat my head into a wall. And now that the industry itself is more or less collapsed, like I don't see things getting better. I mean, who knows? What is my next project? Someone asked. I've got a few things people are talking to me about. I mean, people consistently talk to me about projects. Nothing's really gotten the green light yet, so I'm not really sure exactly. I mean, everyone who talks to you about doing a project is like, oh yeah, this is definitely coming out. I've got publisher interest. I've got this, I've got that. But you quickly figure out like that's really just wishful thinking. There's really no guarantee that a comic is coming out until it's physically on the stand. So yeah, I'm not really sure what my next project is now. Like I said, right now I'm kind of retired, so I'm kind of being more choosy and kind of doing more kind of select stuff.
You've retired at 32 years of age. Good
more
on
or,
you.
more or less. I mean, it's like I said, it's just too difficult to do. I mean, when you're not doing stuff for Marvel or DC, I mean, it's just like the page rates are just too low. I mean, you're lucky to get a page rate of $50 if you're below Marvel and DC, which is roughly about half of what Marvel and DC pay now. They used to pay a lot more. So yeah, it's just, 50 times how many pages you can do a day in a week. And, again, that's like, I mean, that's paid well. I mean, a lot of these companies now are trying to charge people like $30 and less for colors. And again, you just can't live in like the first world and, make a living and have any kind of life, with those kind of rates.
Tree Goblin asks, did you color Vestige gay as F on purpose?
On purpose?
No, he says purpose.
Yeah.
Because he's spelling it incorrectly on purpose just to get his thing put up here, but we're going to ignore that. I actually want you to answer this question though.
I mean, honestly, like I colored Vestige 2 like Vestige 1, and the pages that Ro really liked from Vestige 1, if anyone's seen it, is there's like a little spot where there's kind of like a dream sequence of all these people who had like had artifacts previously, and that one was like Ro's favorite page. And I remember someone made fun of me before. They said my colors are bisexual, and I was kind of telling them that. Like I saw some comment on it, and they're like, "Oh, we want more bisexual." So I mean, that was their favorite pages. And they wanted more pages colored like that, which now they're saying the exact opposite. But I mean, yeah, they wanted me to go farther with like the really extreme colors.
Mr. Wonderful says, isn't gay their whole brand?
You'd have to ask them. I feel like their whole brand is just fighting with people. I don't know if there's anything else really to that. Maybe I just don't understand.
So Samba Gogo says, Rose said was campaign were paying Jason $45 per page IIRC.
What's IIRC?
Something like if anyone really cares or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, they actually had a 20% discount I was giving him on Vestige 2. Normally, like my page rate is 55 and up, so I gave him that discount because we had kind of had like a slight falling out over a previous project, which he kind of brings up a lot, for like a project that they were doing that actually fell apart. So we had already kind of basically like settled that debt. And then I kind of thought I'd never hear from him again. And then they got a hold of me. They wanted me to do Vestige 2 because, in their words, they couldn't find any other quality colorists to do it. And I basically said, yeah, I'll do it. And I mean, he posted this DM somewhere, so I mean, you can see it. But I basically said, yeah, I'll do it. And I kind of feel bad that, we kind of had a disagreement about this previous thing. So I'll give it to you with a 20% discount. That's one of the things that irks me about them not paying me anything is like, you already got a discount. Like, it's one of those things like you're kind of going back on your deal here. But
at what stage did you sort of semi-retire from the coloring and focus more on your work? Was that an issue to do with like timing of getting the pages to them or anything like that?
No, I had semi kind of retired from coloring before Vestige 1 last year.
Right.
So I was kind of like still doing, finishing up some projects I had like, committed to, but for the most part I was like, I got to figure out something to do. So I was kind of thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And then I kind of stumbled upon the job I am now, just as kind of something to do, like, while I'm trying to figure out if I want to abandon coloring completely or I want to try to do it part-time or what. And then when COVID hit, it was like I somehow had made like a genius move because all of a sudden like I've got like a stable job that's that wasn't affected by the whole COVID thing, and I have a paycheck coming in, and I had a lot more security than a lot of people did. at the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, like literally it was like maybe like a month after I started doing the job full time is like when like all the things started just collapsing one after another in comics, like you had Diamond go down and, everything. So, and all like the mass shutdowns and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a really kind of fortuitous timing.
Did you have many friends or acquaintances in the industry that have lost a lot of work?
Yeah. It's one of those weird things where like a lot of people don't like to talk about it. It's one of those things where like, on social media and whatnot, I mean, unless you're, an extreme kind of psycho, like you tend to put like a very positive spin on things. And there's a lot of people who like won't talk about how bad comics were before COVID hit. It's like they're afraid of backlash, or like a lot of it's just embarrassment. Like they want people to think they've got this really cool job. And it's kind of like you have this weird pressure to like act like everything's okay. I mean, it's like when I do these little conventions around my area, I mean, I get people come up to me going like, I told the kids in my classroom that there is a guy I went to school with who works for Marvel Comics, and that, and you can do anything you want. And you're just like, oh man, you don't know the reality of how things work. So yeah, I mean, if any normal person, like if you're trying to talk to any normal person about like how kind of tough like your, quote unquote dream job is, like it just seems insulting. It seems like you're not basically like grateful for what you have. Like I mean, like literally you just see people's eyes drift like, well, like, and they'll be like, well, I'll trade you jobs, like that kind of thing. It's kind of hard to describe. So I think a lot of them are kind of silent because they just don't want people to know like how not awesome their life and financial situation is. And then like, and again, like you have to walk back a lot of things when stuff goes through. I mean, it's kind of tough where it's like, you get excited about some comic project and then like you tell everybody, oh, I'm going to be the next penciler on, whatever this Marvel DC book is. And then all of a sudden Marvel DC shuts down and they can your project. So then like you're going to be spending like, at least half a year, like running into people being like, oh man, how's, your project going? And you're like, oh yeah, it didn't happen. I didn't, it didn't happen. I didn't have anything to back it up. So now I'm, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent, like it's kind of a tough thing to talk about like openly, like,
so that's like a kind of like I know that you don't really know anyone, or they're just not saying it.
I mean, I know some people I can't talk about specifically who are having like really hard.
I'm not asking for a specific name, dude. I'm just asking, have you noticed a trend in your circle?
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed, trends in my circle of this. Yes.
Testify HD's yelling in the audience, but he's not War Campaign anymore. So sorry, Testy. It's not about you. So tell me where these problems started. Like, what was the beginning? Why weren't you turning in a page and getting paid sort of scenario? What was the way you guys had worked it out?
Well, the way we worked out the first Vestige was a standard indie contract, where it's like you get paid half up front and you get paid the other half upon completion. That's your standard indie contract between the creator and whoever's paying for the project. Mostly, usually it ends up being the writer in these situations. So that was Vestige 1, and that worked out. So then, like I said, we had the other thing.
So on Vestige 1, they paid you half of the 48-page amount up front.
Yes, and the other half when I completed it. So that's, like I said, that's pretty standard. And then there was this other project we were doing which never came out, and I did about half of that, and the whole like it was part of their like CG Jumpstart magazine they were going to do, and like everything in that just kind of collapsed. And it was kind of one of those things where there was kind of taking a while and to get everything together, and so it was kind of like basically I just left the project and refunded them half the money because they had paid for the entire thing up front. But I'd already done half the work, so I just gave them back half the money, which again is a standard thing. I mean, people, it's like it's like when people try to get like 100% of their money back, you can't like refund my time. So like you see that a lot with like amateur indie people. Like they'll hire like someone like me who they kind of can't afford, and then they'll like about halfway through realize they can't afford it, so they have to go with a cheaper colorist. But then they've already like paid me half the money, so then they try to figure out some excuse to like get that money back, because they really didn't have the money to spend in the first place. But you're kind of like, well, I mean, I've already done the work. I can't, it's not like I'm selling you a car that you can just give back to me, kind of thing. I've already done the work. I mean, you have the pages. I mean, they're digital, so basically you both have copies of the same pages. So you see amateurs try that all the time. I mean, everybody who's a comic creator has some story about someone trying to pull something similar, on them, where they try to like, get the money back for whatever BS reason. And usually it just ends up being like a big hassle. And then at the end, they realize it's better they just, pay the money that's owed and just kind of go their separate ways. So anyways, that was that project. And then I didn't hear from him for a long time. And then I just kind of got this kind of out of the blue kind of message. It was like, hey, we're gearing up to do Vestige 2. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. The thing is, to be quite honest with you, I like Vestige. I like the characters. I mean, I kind of like the story. I really like Doodle's, the new penciler's art. I like Donald's art. I liked working on it. I mean, the first time I worked on it for Vestige 1, I mean, they were just happy with whatever came in. I mean, they were just like, like I'd asked for like notes, like, hey, do you want me to change any of this? I kind of went a little extreme here and there. And they're like, no, whatever you do is great. Just keep doing it. So that was Vestige 1. It was super relaxed and easy to work with. And then somewhere between there and here, like a lot of things changed with those guys. And I mean, I really don't know what happened, but it's became way different kind of.
When did they contact you to do the colors for the second book?
I want to say they probably contacted me in April, maybe. Just talk about it, but I could be wrong about that. It was like the end of April.
And was it basically the same contract?
The only thing different was because of the fallout they had with the CGI Jumpstart thing. They were paying everybody at the end, which is, I mean, that's what standard comic companies do. I mean, like, if you work for Marvel, DC, or IDW, or anybody, I mean, you get paid once everything's turned in. Sometimes you get paid on like a schedule afterwards. Like you get paid like 2 weeks after you turn everything in. And, those publishers, I mean, and again, they have much more consistent work. So yeah, again, you're doing like a string of books for somebody. You're getting paid, 2 weeks after you turn in, and there's like a cycle you can get used to. But no, Ro was he was adamant that he's paying me at the end, which he, basically his reason for that was like, well, we have the money now. Like we didn't have, when we were doing Vestige 1, we didn't have all the money, but now that we have all this money from that campaign, I can afford to pay you in, so we're just going to do that. So we agreed upon the price. We agreed upon the deadline. Got the pages I was getting from Doodle and just went with it. I mean, I showed him most of those pages, about half of those pages that I posted. I mean, they saw and were like, these are great. Keep doing what you're doing. And again, I colored Vestige 1, and like, I personally think the coloring is a little bit better on Vestige 2. But yeah, it's not like they weren't expecting me to color like this.
And so how many pages did they get shown before like things fell apart?
All of them.
Yeah, but how many is that? I haven't.
Like 17, I would say.
Oh, okay. So they got 17 pages, and obviously you sent it back to them like as you're doing them, or did you just like give them like in batches of 5 or something?
I tend to throw stuff back in batches. Anybody who works, as a creator in comics, you realize like if you're working for any company, if you send stuff like page at a time, you'll just get way more notes because the people who are editors are trying to justify their jobs. Like if I don't, give a bunch of notes on these pages, then the people above me will think I'm not doing my job. So you tend to give stuff in batches, like you'll get like less notes and better notes if you give stuff in batches, because they'll just concentrate on like what's the most important thing from these pages. But yeah, if you turn things in page at a time, you'll just get notes on every page. And again, these are like nitpicky notes that they're just trying to give you just to give you notes. So that's how I work. That's how most people work.
Yeah. But, so how many pages like would you do then? Like 5 at a time or 10 at a time or what?
I mean, probably usually working on maybe like, it depends on what it is. Like a lot of times I'll work on sequences at a time. So if there's like 8 pages in like, say like a flashback, I'll be working all those at the same time and kind of turn those in as like a batch. So I think of all those pages that they got, I think I turned in like those are like 2 batches basically. I mean, the cover I turned in because they wanted me to rush the cover for their campaign, so that I turned in by itself, but everything else was turned in like 2 batches.
Right.
Which is again how I turned in Vestige 1. It's not like it was a surprise, you know.
Yeah, so nothing had really changed, like from your point of view.
Oh no, I mean they complained that like, oh, you know, well he'd had all these pages for like 3 months, and he only did 17 in 3 months. You know, he's not working on their schedule. But the thing is, like, our deadline was August 1st, which still has not arrived. So I was well on time to have the entire thing turned in. I mean, that's how most comic things work. I mean, you agree upon a deadline and you turn them in on that deadline. Usually there's like a couple days to a week of like corrections. You know, they're like, okay, I want this, you know, fixed, and, you know, or, you know, you fix that, you touch whatever up, and then it's done. So them saying that I wasn't turning in enough pages on a timeline was kind of bullshit, because they understand that. I mean, I was already giving them a 20% discount on these pages, so they weren't paying me to do them early. You know, there was like, in publishing, a lot of times, if you want, like, say, like, you want something early, but, you know, there's another like deadline that's more like realistic, like you'll pay like a bonus to be like, okay, well, you know, April 1st is, you know, the realistic deadline, but, you know, we'd really like to have them done by like the middle of July, so we'll give you an extra, you know, like, you know, $100 or whatever to get them done early. That's normally how that works, because like there's that saying in like, you know, publishing, it's like you've got 3 concerns. You've got, you know, money, time, and quality, and you can only have 2. So, you know, it's like, well, you know, if you're getting a discount and you're getting high quality pages, and you're not going to get them like, you know, ahead of time. And if you want them ahead of time, either you got to pay me more money, or I got to do them, you know, for lesser quality. And I'm sorry to hear that, Dark Lord. It's
Dark Lord says, oh shit, I just realized I don't care about any if this. Nice one, Dark Lord.
But I don't know. I mean, if Dark Lord doesn't care,
I care about it. Don't worry. You don't have to listen to anything that the chat says.
Yeah.
So, how many did you have? All of Doodlebag's inks? Like, were they digital, or what was the go with that?
No. There was some things they were waiting on, because there was like a perk where people could pay to get drawn into the book. So I think he was waiting on those last. I don't really remember offhand how many pages I had left for them to give me, but it was, I would estimate maybe like at least a dozen pages I didn't have. You know, so I mean, he may be done with all of it now, but like, you know, at the time that I got let go, there was about a dozen pages.
Yeah, so you're probably still waiting on a dozen. And how long was the book? Was it 48 pages?
Yeah, I believe so. 48 pages in the cover.
Yeah, so you've done 17 plus a cover. So you had what is that? 20,
about a third of the way
21.
through.
So there's 21 sort of outstanding, but 12 of those you hadn't gotten yet.
Yeah.
So that's like 9 pages they're waiting on, which isn't even a full batch.
And to be perfectly clear, I mean, they had the right to fire me at any time. I mean, for whatever bullshit reason they wanted to. I mean, it's, you know, if they don't like, I mean, again, it's one of those things where if you don't like my coloring work, that's fine. You know, if you prefer someone else's coloring work, that happens. You know, it's just kind of a, you know, thing that happens. I mean, it's not even really always a reflection of like how good someone is. It's just like, well, this person, you know, does better with this team, with this colorist does better team with this artist, you know, vice versa. I mean, I thought the coloring work I was doing with Doodle was great. And again, it's not dissimilar from what I was doing on the first one. But yeah, I mean, they could fire me for whatever reason. Just, you know, they could fire me because they didn't like a tweet I made. But this, I mean, but my thing is just pay me the money you owe me. I mean, you know, sure, go with someone else. Cool. Just give me that money. The money that we had agreed upon. And that's the whole reason, like, like one of the guys who was coming at me from Work Campaign kept saying I was defaming Roe by publicly saying that Roe hadn't paid me, but it's like, no, I can prove that, like Roe had not paid me, pretty simply. But like them saying that I'm a shitty, colorist who, has anxiety problems and, can't turn work in on time, that's defamation. That's
Who was saying that?
just, well, I think Gat was saying that and Roe was saying that, and just maybe the dozen or so people that they had corralled to come at me when I, posted publicly that I wasn't getting paid. So, I mean, but that's the thing is like, I mean, if they're going to fire me, not pay me, they have to have some logical reason besides they just don't want to give me the money they owe me. So, I mean, they kind of have to say, something, I guess.
What do you have anxiety though? I know a lot of people that have anxiety.
I would say I developed anxiety from just working in comics. I mean, it's hard not to have anxiety. I also developed type 2 diabetes from working in comics.
Are you quite overweight, are you?
No, I'm not. That's the thing is like, I'm average weight. Like every time I see a doctor, they like lose their shit because they're like, oh, like, why do you have this? Like something's really wrong with you. And if you look at like the contributing factors to type 2, like number 1 is weight, right? That's 90% of people get it through weight. And then like way down number 2, like it starts to be like, improper sleeping schedules, anxiety, that kind of thing, basically not getting a lot of exercise because you're sitting in a chair all day. So, I mean, I hit pretty much every other contributing factor to be type 2 diabetic except for the weight. And again, it's all related to comics. It's like, I'm sitting in a chair all the time. I'm, not getting out and exercising. I've got constant stress over like where the next paycheck is coming from and, that kind of stuff. So again, my sleeping, I don't really even sleep. I just have, a couple of 3-hour naps here and there, kind of thing. Because literally, like when you're working in comics, I mean, no one cares like how long it takes you to color a comic. Like, here's your deadline, make it. And if you had to stay up for a week straight to be able to make the deadline, which is, I mean, it's pretty common for comic artists of any type to be up for like maybe 2 days straight to make a deadline. I mean, no one cares. They just care about when it comes in. So that's kind of how the industry works.
Yeah. Have you talked to a liver specialist?
Talk to a what specialist?
Liver.
No, I have not.
Sometimes diabetes can cause some damage to the liver through cirrhosis.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of those things like type 2. Type 1 is basically like, you have a sugar imbalance and you die. Where type 2 is like it just slowly kills you.
Yeah.
Over time. So yeah, I mean there's lots of things. It can damage your heart, it can damage your liver. I mean it's like the leading cause of blindness. Just going suddenly blind.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a
one of my all-time favorite artists, Norm Brayfogle. Did you ever work with him or no?
No, I know who Norm is though.
Yeah.
Batman guy, right?
Yeah. He was a fantastic artist. Actually, he drew probably the first first Cape comic that I remember picking up and reading. And I kept that issue from when I was a kid, and I managed to buy a page of his art from that issue, and he sent me this really nice, really great head sketch of Batman that's like on A4 sort of paper, just as like a here you go sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, great guy, but he suffered the same thing. He developed diabetes through being overweight, and he ended up having a stroke and losing use of his drawing arm. And like, yeah, basically he was really depressed and upset for like the last 4 or 5 years of his life that he said, I'm really spewing that I spent so many years just getting stoned and watching movies. And then, I think he was only 56 or something when he died.
Oh yeah, like what's his name? Steve Dillon from Preacher. He died young, somewhat recently. If you ever read Marvel: The Untold Story, which is a really good book. I recommend everyone read it. Like, there's a shocking amount of people who just drop dead in their 30s working in comics in that book. Just, all of a sudden someone just straight up dies. And, a lot of it's just due to unhealthy lifestyle. But yeah, I mean, so that's, again, it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, it's almost like, like a lot of people like, in their chosen professions tend to like put themselves in harm's way. I mean, right now there's a bunch of nurses and doctors who are putting themselves at great health risk to do their job. I'm not comparing myself to them whatsoever, but like scientists who study like radiation often die of cancer, kind of thing. It's whatever you're choosing profession. And I love coloring comics, to be honest with everybody.
So you're studying sugar and fat.
Yeah, basically. It's
David Bowser for $2. Thank you so much. He says, "Here's to Oz's ego."
And
wow,
it's actually
thanks,
anyone with diabetes knows it's actually sugar, not fat. The sugar industry in the 60s basically put all their side effects into fat because there's no fat industry. But yeah, if you're wondering why, like, we know way more about diets and everything now, but like people are just getting fatter and fatter, it's straight up due to like mostly what that corn syrup they put in everything. But yeah, it's all sugar. Because people are eating way less fat now. But yeah, I mean, Frazetta like lost the use of his hand. I mean, pretty much just find any kind of comic pro from back in the day, and just they'll have some kind of a lot of them have back problems from just sitting upright all the time.
When Michelangelo was at the end of his life, he was writing in his diaries and he said, "I've got a cricket in my left ear and a spider in my right."
Yeah. It's like musicians will like lose their hearing, from playing like at loud rock festivals. I mean, athletes, their bodies just break down. So by the time they're like in their 40s, I mean, they can barely move. So yeah, it's nothing intrinsic to the comic, the comic artist, but yeah, I mean, it's tough on you. I mean, it's something that like, it's like I talk to people like younger people all the time who want to get into comics, and I always feel like, what I want to do is go away, just run as far as you can, but you don't want to. That never comes off well. But like you get these guys who are like, in their early 20s, who are like they don't want to finish school. They want to like start working for Marvel and DC, like when like right now. And like a lot of them aren't bad, but like I'll talk to them and be like, yeah, we'll finish school and your stuff's good, but maybe in 5-10 years, maybe you'll be like working, as a professional comic artist. And they're like, oh, I want to work right now. But I kind of want to tell them is like, dude, enjoy your 20s, because once you lock into this, I mean, that's it. You're just going to be miserable. I mean, I know the most talented guy that I know from college who's crazy talented. I'm not going to call out his name because he's actually somewhat known in like art circles, but like I was talking to him a few years ago and he's like, I'm just going to be a supervisor for like my family's like real estate business. I don't want to do art again. And I was like, dude, like I mean, he's just amazingly talented. Like, how can you not do this? How could you not give your gift to the world? He's like, I'm just tired of doing it. I mean, because he was working as an artist straight out of college, unlike most of us. And he was, I mean, again, like he was like, just getting burnt out. Like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I'll just work for my family and just not have to deal with this. Like, it was just really heartbreaking.
Who are you talking about?
Like I said, a guy I know from college who went on to become like a famous illustrator. He's not a comic artist, but I don't want to call him out specifically, but like I said, he's somewhat well known in art circles. Like he's been on the cover of like High Fructose and Juxtapose and stuff. So I mean, he's among certain people, he's pretty well known. But yeah, I mean, I just remember having that talk with him, being like, that business is depressing. And then several years later, having pretty much the same kind of realization myself. Like, dude, I don't know if I can keep doing this. It's just not worth it.
Doppler radar for $2. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. CG trivia. Micah Curtis has what type of diabetes?
Who's Micah Curtis?
Exactly.
No.
You don't come on my show, you don't get known.
No, seriously, is he an artist or?
I don't know who he is.
Okay, well,
the name
sounds familiar.
In the crowd, I think maybe, I don't know.
Name sounds familiar. I didn't know if he was like an artist or like another like live streamer or what.
He might live stream. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to. Like I said, I've been following kind of Comicsgate since the beginning, but it's without being like, super invested in it. It's like it just changes so quick. It's hard to keep up with like who's who and like who's got beef with who and what's happening.
Oh,
with this.
tell me about it, man. I when people criticize me all the time, they're like, "How do you not know who this guy is? How do you not know what happened?" 3 years ago on the 14th of March through to the 17th of March, that kind of thing. I'm
Well,
like, give me a break. Like, that's why you guys are on here to tell me. I don't need to, keep store of all this stuff.
Well, there's just so much content. It's like the big Comicsgate guys, they put out like 5, like videos a day. It's hard to keep up with all that. But yeah, like I remember when Comicsgate first became a thing, like when Richard Meyer first started to like blow up. I mean, everyone in comics was talking about it, like, oh, there's this guy and he's, this alt-right a-hole and he's, harassing this person and that person. And so it was kind of one of those things where like no one would admit to like watching Richard Meyer videos, but everyone was watching it. Like you would actually catch people like quoting stuff he said that kind of made sense. And then when Ethan, I know you don't want me to bring him up, but when he kind of, switched over to being, I guess more of a live streamer than
I like the fact that you took my rule aboard.
Well, I don't know
and then you acknowledged my rule, and then you just proceeded, without even taking a breath to break said rule.
Well, I mean, it's but
I appreciate that kind of directness. But Doppel Radar for $2. Thank you so much again. A tip for Jason's wise words. Who is Micah indeed?
But when your friend switched over to Comicsgate, that was a bigger deal because he was a big artist. So there was like, oh no, like they're not going to go away.
He's not that fat. People keep saying he's fat, but he's not.
Well, I mean, fat. Everybody owns those Grant Morrison X-Men books he did. So I mean, that was a big deal. Like, oh no, they're like, there's a big thing about how do we get these people just to go away, and then like when he switched over, that's when people started talking about like, oh no, they're not just like a fad that's going to go away when we get rid of this one guy. It's like there's more of them. And then every time someone else either switches over or like even looks like they're going to switch, there's a big like, oh no, like did you hear about this guy? Oh, he's jumping ranks. Like I got a lot of people who were like, I made some tweets about Comicsgate a while ago. And basically, I didn't even really say that Comicsgate was good or bad, but it was more just like, hey, look, there's a lot of hostility here. Let's try to understand where everyone's coming from, which, I mean, I changed zero minds. Exactly. I mean, no one read my tweets who changed sides, but I had a lot of people like get a hold of me, like concerned, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I was like, well, I'm trying to like just make everything a little bit smoother. And they're like, well, I mean, it's not going to be smoother until the other side goes away. It's like, well, no one's going away. Like, that was my point. Like, we're all here. Comics isn't that big of an industry. We got to, and again, to be quite honest, Comicsgate is like thriving in areas that like the rest of comics is failing at. I mean, again, like look at it like crowdfunding, Comicsgate to non-Comicsgate. I mean, Comicsgate's just crushing it. And now you're seeing, people take notice of all that money. So I was just trying to say like, hey, look, there's some misunderstanding on both sides. Let's just try to, and yeah, but again, both sides were like, we just want the other side to go away and forever. And it's like, okay, but yeah, but I had a few people who were like, I had people get a hold of me who are like professionals who were like, are you calling me out for this tweet I made? And other people like, what do you think you're doing? Like, are you switching over to their side? And I was like, I'm on my side. Like I've had one client who's Comicsgate and many more that aren't, it's just, I just kind of go where, who pays me, who's not too crazy.
Raging Golden Eagle, welcome to the show. He's got a really big book out at the moment. I hope that
oh, cool.
The production's going well.
What book is that?
You're not supposed to ask me those kind of questions. It's out now.
You got a lot of rules for this little thing you're doing.
You know what? I don't. I apologize. I don't really have any rules whatsoever. I'm just trying to defend my ignorance on what his book title is called. But if he's welcome, Raging. If you want to come on, or if you want me to come on, there to promote you, or you could promote me, or what have you. We could promote each other.
I would guess, without knowing anything about it, that Mr. Raging has probably made somewhere in the neighborhood about 30 grand on his crowdfunding.
Really?
Just a guess, because that seems to be like almost like the bottom of like Comicsgate projects. Like it seems like everyone.
All right, all those in the chat, don't type anything. I'm gonna bring up the Indiegogo. We'll have a look.
Whereas like about 30 grand seems to be like the ceiling for like non-Comicsgate like Kickstarters. Like it's crazy how different the money is, like in the two kind of spheres.
So yeah, that's right. His book is called Blade Devil. It's kind of a throwback to manga and sort of 16-bit video games, from what I can see. It looks pretty cool. It's very, I'd say, color heavy. So the line work is just like cartoon line work, like sketch outline, and then the colors do a lot of the work.
Okay, clean line is what they call that.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of cross hatching and stuff. All right, let me just bring him up. Don't know why I'm promoting him. Probably because he's Comicsgate. What did I say it was called again?
I don't know. Did you say it was like Blade something?
Oh yeah, Blade Devil. I'm not very good at looking up stuff. It can take a while sometimes. But I feel comfortable doing it with you because you seem to be able to talk.
Yeah. Which is weird. Like that's a skill that like people lose, I think, when they start doing comics full time. Like it's weird how many times like I've been on like a small panel and stuff and there's just dead silence. I mean, it's like people are answering questions with like one or two words and just, I mean, like just fumbling. It's just really like uncomfortable if you've ever been like at a, smaller kind of panel on like, coloring in comics or indie comics or, whatever. It's crazy how like inarticulate some of the people become.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about being inarticulate.
But that's the thing is like I like a lot of like the Comicsgate people tend to be able to talk. I mean, again, they're putting out like 5 videos a day, where it's like the opposite tends to not really have that skill.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Are you able to read that?
So
$224,410 USD raised of $500 goal.
Holy crap!
Yeah,
it's
like a big one.
Yeah, I mean, oh my god, that's his first campaign too.
Yep,
that's like Cyberfrog numbers.
Well, not quite, but it's very similar to sort of graveyard shift kind of numbers.
Oh no, I mean that's great. I mean, I think it took like Vestige like a year to make 100,000. Like when it was in the on-demand store or in-demand store, whatever they call it.
Yeah, I think Blade Devil was at 100 grand within like 2 days or something.
Oh yeah,
I mean, crazy.
Congratulations to you, man. That's awesome. Again, the artwork looks fantastic. From what I'm looking at, I was really like, from your description, I was expecting it to be like a lot more like just simple kind of anime, but it looks great. Good job, buddy.
Good job.
But you see,
Jason
those like
says good job.
But you see like those like people who are like quote unquote professional like comic artists who work for like the big companies, and like they do like one of those like anthology books where there's like 50 of them and like they can't raise like 30,000. Like it's crazy how much like they're just not translating to like the fan base. Whereas like I didn't even know that the Blade Devil existed, and now it's like it's made like over $100,000. I mean or $200,000. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's the power of YouTube,
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like the Comicsgate has such a huge head start on like the whole YouTube thing than whatever you call it, anti-Comicsgate or non-Comicsgate. And like it seems like some people are trying, but they're just like not getting the almost like they're not getting like the numbers that they are expecting, so they're giving up soon. Like they just don't know like what like people want from them. I mean, it's always like, I mean, Comicsgate really had kind of the advantage where like they kind of came in on like a wave of like controversy and like fan dissatisfaction. So I mean, I think that's part of like why they, like especially like Richard Meyer, I think that's why he resonated so well, is because there's a lot of people at the time who were kind of dissatisfied with some of the decisions being made in comics. So yeah, they don't really have that kind of push to them, like the anti, Comicsgate people who are trying to get in YouTube now. It's, I don't think there's anything for like fans to like really latch onto like there was with Comicsgate. And it's, I don't know. What do you think, Oz? Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure, but have you got any of your Scooby-Doo colors that you can show?
I do. I think there are some up on the like on my Twitter page. The thing about Scooby-Doo though is like Scooby-Doo is a very different animal than say like anything like Vestige or anything, because with Scooby-Doo or anything like that I worked on, like Powerpuff Girls or Ben 10 or like you get style sheets basically from the companies who basically tell you exactly what colors that like the Scooby Gang are. Like for example, like Fred's shirt isn't white, it's 6% black. I mean, that kind of thing. And the reason they do that is because like part of it's copyright. Like if you're going to copyright a character, you have to copyright the design to like the very specifics. And part of it's just like they don't want you going too far out of the box in case so in case like your colors don't match the approved licensing.
Were you ever into Archie comics?
I can't say I was. I don't think I've ever read one. But anyways, I mean, Archie would probably be the same way. But anyways, when I color Scooby, like there was very, very few opportunities I had really to kind of put any kind of real mark on it. Mostly like what I could do is like the backgrounds. Like I could kind of go crazy with the backgrounds as far as I wanted. And I always tried to make them kind of look more like kind of like traditional animation where there'd be like kind of like a flat, like colored like character, but the backgrounds would be like painted.
Cell shading.
Yeah, like I mean, Hanna-Barbera. If you ever look at the old Hanna-Barbera stuff, like their background colors were crazy. Like just
have
really.
You seen?
Yeah.
Have you seen the Jetsons movie with Tiffany?
Jetsons movie with Tiffany.
Yeah.
So that come out in the 90s, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have.
Yeah. You should watch that. That's really cool.
Oh, is it cool or is it because it doesn't sound cool?
Like no, it's cool. It's cool. It's got awesome colors and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, that old Disney animation has great, colors too. I mean, there's some really, or what's his name, Ralph Bashki, all his kind of stuff, like, is really awesome. Yeah, I mean, like, I have a whole book full of Pixar's like color guides. It's not even the color guides. Like for every frame of a Pixar movie, they actually do like a quick kind of like color breakdown of like these like kind of basic, almost abstract shapes of what the screen will look like. It's really, really interesting. And it's really interesting that they go in that much detail when they're like planning out like how everything is going to look.
So you didn't answer me anyway. Do you have any Scooby-Doo pics you can show us?
I think I've got some on my Twitter page. I haven't posted a lot of those just because it's kind of hard to. There's one that I posted a bunch of pages of that we did like a Cabin in the Woods kind of send up on. And I think I've got some of those up, but I really don't think I've got too many of those up, and I don't know where they would be offhand.
So what you're saying to me is you want me to search your Twitter page for Scooby-Doo pictures?
I'm saying it might not be worth your time to search my Twitter page because there might not be too many up there.
Okay.
You're turning into that woman that interviewed what's his name? He was a psychologist that your buddy did the artwork for that everyone's like mad at.
That's a pretty fucking random
No.
description of someone.
What's the really,
my buddy did the artwork for someone that.
No, what's the really popular like psychology
Someone's
professor that the alt-right loves?
I don't know. George Soros?
No. I'll think of it in a second.
Do you know who George Soros is?
I know who George Soros is supposed to be.
Oh, what's he supposed to be?
Is he like the one who funds all like the Clinton Foundation and that kind of thing? Jordan
I'm
Peterson
not
is who I'm
sure.
thinking of. Jordan Peterson was on that show where like that woman would like basically just twist around everything he said. She'd be like, "So what you're saying is," that was like her
Oh,
big
do you
like
think I'm
phrase.
being mean to you? No,
No,
no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm actually
no,
want you to show me the bit. I'm actually like I want to see what you've done to the colors on
no,
Scooby
I'm
Doo.
saying it in jest, where but it's like that was like her big thing, where like every time he would say something, she's like, "So what you're saying is," and then like twist it around, and like they thought she was like dunking on him, but it just looked really transparent. No, I like I said, I if I knew exactly where something was that I could like show you, I would send you the link, but I can't really think of any of the Scooby stuff because I just like I said, I don't really post Scooby stuff because okay, here's a big problem with that. When I was working on Scooby, I was working for DC. I mean, Scooby is the license department is technically like a different department in DC, but it's still a DC comic. And I would actually talk to editors that I knew from that department who had moved on to like, say like more of the Cape stuff. And like all they would do was like, I'd be like, hey man, I'd like to work on this stuff. This like, well, we'll let you know if we've got more like Looney Tunes for you to do. Like I got stuck really quick in this kind of like typecast as this guy who colors kids comics. And even when I went over to IDW, like the first stuff they would give me was all just kids comics. Like they were giving me, like Ben 10 and like Powerpuff Girl covers and whatnot. And they, it was really hard to get out of that, like, that pigeonhole of like, I just could only color kids comics. So like for a while, like I was actually like just refusing all kids comic work because I wanted to get out of that. And, IDW gave me, they gave me some GI Joe covers, and then they gave me which is adjacent, and then they gave me the adaptation to a Drive, and then that kind of got me out of that stage. But yeah, it was kind of surprising that how like quickly I got like pigeonholed by like people who know better, like. So yeah, I didn't put up a lot of my Scooby, Looney Tunes, Powerpuff Girl stuff just for that kind of reason.
Yeah, so you've kind of hidden it away in the depths of the internet.
Yeah, it's like even though if you do an amazing like job on something like Scooby, it's like people like just don't see how that translates into like doing an amazing job on something else.
Yeah, but I'm not people. I'm someone who is interested in art.
So what you're saying is you want to go through my Twitter and look at my Scooby pages.
Well, what's your setup? How come you don't have any artwork on your PC or laptop or whatever you're using?
What do you mean? Oh, I mean, I've got plenty of stuff. I just
because you can share the window, if you know what I mean. Like you can just bring it up and you can just share your screen.
Yeah, I'll look through here while we're talking and see if I can find any of the Scooby things. No,
that's a great idea.
If I find any, I'll put it up.
Yeah. And so while you're doing that, I've been ignoring the chat a little bit. So I'll throw to the chat here, and I'll have a little bit of discussion with you lot. Oz is a lady confirmed. I can deny that. I'm a father, not a mother. Twitless is in here telling us it's Jordan Peterson. Yeah, thanks, Twitless. I knew who he was talking about. I was just joking about George Soros. Because these people keep telling me that George Soros is the source of all evil in the world. But you don't believe that, do you, Jason?
Yeah, I think he's just, from what I can tell, George Soros is just like a very like, I don't know. You know what? I don't care about George Soros. Let's put it that way. That's outside of my realm of expertise.
I've got one fan in my audience of George, and that's Amit. He says that George is just misunderstood, and he's just like the opposite coin of like Donald Trump, and people are just mad at him for political reasons. What do you reckon about that?
I reckon I found a page you want to put up.
Yeah, okay, cool.
This isn't Scooby, but this is a Powerpuff Girls cover I did for a guy I worked up with Powerpuff Girls. It was for like a Chinese like comic convention. It might have been the first one they had in that region ever. So this is kind of like an example of like me coloring like, some licensed kid stuff.
Cool. So this is What were the name of them in China?
No idea.
Oh.
I don't know if they have Chinese names or they just use the American names.
Well, it probably wouldn't mean much to them. Powerpuff Girls.
Well, I was speaking to a guy the other day who was a linguist, and he was saying that there are no shared common sounds in the English and Chinese language. Like, say, if you speak English and you were going to learn Chinese, you literally have to learn how to make all new sounds. So they may have kind of like just whatever English-ish names they have, like they're easier for someone in China to like say, you know.
I just saw a question there from Nimprod. He wants to know what your channel is so he can follow you. Do you have a channel or a Twitch or what do you do?
No, I do have a YouTube channel that I might get back into where I've got a couple of coloring demos up where basically I just do like a double speed like of me coloring something and I talk about kind of my process going through it. I may do more of those depending on oh hey, thank you, Nimprod.
Jason is giving a great show and making this worthwhile, like EVS yesterday. But Oz always looking for shit. Meh, not interested.
I'm starting
he's obviously not interested in Scooby Doo.
Well, what was the grammatical error that he made that you skipped over?
No, I didn't. I read it out as it was.
I know, but you didn't call it out like you called out everybody else.
Well, he was insulting me, so I figure he was typing in a bit of a rage, so I gave him the benefit of a doubt.
He was insulting you, but he was complimenting me, so I think that's a win-win.
Okay.
I think it came out okay. But I said this Powerpuff Girls poster is like a good example of kind of what I would do when I was doing like, you know, the kids' books.
Kitless says, "What is the rendering technique you use?"
When I'm doing I'll put up another page. It's kind of more of what I do in a second. I tend to do what I would really call like advanced cuts. Like I kind of do it like I do a couple of different variations of it, but it's kind of like I'm doing like kind of cuts, but I'm doing more cuts. Like I tend to use a lot of like transitional colors. Like I'll use a different color that transitions between like the midground and like the basically the shadow. Yeah, I don't really keep everything that organized on my
That's all right.
My desktop.
Brother Gaia says Velma better be showing bush.
Pretty sure Velma's not showing bush. But is that a big thing? Or like
I have no idea. I have no responsibility for what the chat throws out there.
I mean, you're reading it out loud, so I'm assuming you've got some kind of, you know.
I was just reading it out because he's expressing anguish at the idea of seeing Scooby-Doo art. But they don't understand. They don't understand the delicate balance in cutting out the shapes, getting the curves right, and things like that.
Well, I would say, okay, talking more about my technique, I put another page up. My technique is based around being able to tweak things. Like, I mean, like maybe half my time is spent just tweaking the colors I put down because that balance is so important. I mean, if I change one color, every other color looks wrong, and I have to keep kind of tweaking them until they get into like a special balance. This was from a pencil I really like named Robert Cray for like a project that never got picked up. So this is kind of more what I'd standard. This is like less rendering than I usually do, but I use my brushes exclusively in dissolve mode. So if anybody is a Photoshop nerd, they're going to like just lose their shit right now because people hate dissolve mode, but like I do it because I can infinitely tweak things. So yeah, it's like, you know, if you a lot of people who like say like try to like like I've had people who like say like they follow me on a project, like, and maybe they do like a fill-in issue of Star Trek or something, and like they'll get like my pages and try to like sample colors, and like they figure out they can't do it because like if you look at her skin tone, like just sampling it through Photoshop, it's probably going to be like a very like it's going to be darker and maybe greener than it looks right here, but because of like all the context, like the warmness of the shadow, like it comes off as kind of like that light yellow. So yeah, I mean, like my stuff is very, very controlled and very like I spend a lot of time, getting it, just tweaking it, just so it just goes just as I like it. And people always like compliment me that my stuff prints out, really well. It's like, yeah, I spend a lot of time, making sure it does.
What do you get when you're doing like what do they send you when you're doing like a Scooby-Doo book or a more cartoony book?
With that, like if I was starting from scratch, typically they would send me like whatever the style sheets are that like they get. Like
No, I
Scooby-Doo
mean in
has,
terms of the ink file, like what do you get? What does it look like?
I would just get like a black and white. Like, hang on, I can probably find that ink file of what I got for the
Yeah, that'd be great.
previous
Like, if we
thing.
could have a look at an ink file, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, let me go back. But yeah, typically, I mean, I'm just getting to black and white inks, kind of no frills.
So what drew you to becoming a colorist? It's not a normal sort of like a letterer, I guess. It's not a normal sort of job pathway with regard to art.
So you're saying being a letterer is, or? Oh,
No, I'm saying like a letterer as well. Like usually if you want to be an artist in comics, you don't take up lettering or coloring, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends. I mean, I guess what you said, Kelsey Shannon had done some.
Yeah,
coloring.
Comicsgate that's why I want to have Kelsey on as well to talk to him about that, as well as Eric, because both of those guys do really cool art, and I'm interested to know why they've gone through as colorists and letterers. So I'm asking you the same thing.
Basically, like when I went to college, I have a BFA, so I went there to basically learn how to paint, to be an illustrator. And I like comics. I want to do comics, but I kind of realized really quickly that like I would not be able to draw a comic page as quick as I to make a living. I mean, just like one of those things where, it's just like I'm too like reference intensive, like to be able to, I can't really draw things realistically out of my mind as well. Like I need a lot of reference. So I mean, it would just take me way too long to be able to do it. So I kind of just gave up on that for a while, and I was kind of I just kind of did other things. I did graphic design for a really long time for like newspapers, which also are kind of gone. But what happened is like when I was in college, like that was about when like computer coloring first started to like hit the scene. And it was all, I mean, not all of it, but a lot of it was just awful. It was like all overcolored and just, really kind of terrible. I mean, it was, so, and before that, I mean, you didn't really think about even colors as being, any kind of like job. And it was, like I said, it was a job at the production department, like interns did it. So I really didn't think about that for years. And then like, kind of when the economy crashed and my graphic design career fell apart, I just got online because I had all this, basically I had all this unemployment, and I didn't have any of my paints with me because I lived in Portland at the time, and I really hadn't done any illustration for a long time, and I just had my computer, and I didn't really even think of my computer as something to do art with. I just thought of it as something that I did like design with, because I'd done some like album covers, and like I said, I did like various t-shirts and whatnot, but nothing really too artistic. But I just I got a gift certificate to Amazon for my birthday, and I just bought the cheapest tablet I could. And I just was, every day I'd get up and I would just go online and try to figure out like how to color comics, because it kind of made sense to me. Like, well, I can do this. Like at this point in the 2000s, like coloring had become a lot better. Like there was actually a good colorist, and there used to be a website called Gutter Zombie, kind of before Twitter got big, which is a message board that all these professional colorists hung out on. So I was kind of trying to figure out how to do coloring. So I keep going there and like looking at people's tutorials and whatnot. And I started posting some stuff, and I started getting like really like top tier, like Dave McCaig and Nate Fairbairn and Laura Martin, like basically critiquing my stuff and being like, well, I mean, you're kind of fucking this up and that up, but if you just do these simple tweaks, it actually turns out really well. And I was really encouraging. So through there, I'd actually like met a guy who was doing a remastering. He was not doing it, but he was like in charge of like remastering old comics from Marvel. Like, you know, when you buy like the graphic novels and stuff of the old comics, they have like the new kind of like redone computer coloring. Not redone as in like shaded, but like the ones that were like, you know, they're kind of done to look like the old comics. So that's what I did for like 3 solid years. I just colored those, and I actually made a really good living at it. Better than I made in subsequent years of like just coloring old comics for Marvel, and I was doing great. And then like it was kind of one of those things where then Marvel one day decided they were just giving everyone a pay cut, and they told me that they had to pay, they had to reduce my pay by 25% because the graphic novels weren't selling that well, which really pissed me off because it was like the 25% you're docking me is not making your graphic design. I mean, not making your graphic novels solvent, but it's just hurting me. So I ended up a guy I knew a guy who was doing Scooby-Doo for DC, and I was like, well, you know, I was just talking to him. I was like, well, you know, Marvel's pissing you off. I can talk to my buddy who does Scooby-Doo. So I kind of just went from that to doing Scooby-Doo. I did that for a couple of years, and then one of the editors on Scooby-Doo went over to IDW. And that's how I got introduced to that. And again, everything else is just by me like posting stuff on Twitter and people just needing colors to work with. So that's kind of the short of my career in comics.
Squisher 420 asks, Portland, does he know Narwhal?
I don't. I know who that guy is. His stuff's great. He was one of those guys like I saw like
I forget what his real name is. He did tell me when he came on.
I don't know what his real name is either, but I've seen some of his stuff, and it's definitely caught my eye.
Richard Cook or something like that.
I don't want to out him, but
no. He was on my show recently. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know him personally. I've just seen his stuff, and I think it's great. And I think I told him on Twitter I thought his stuff was great a couple of times. But yeah, like I said, like out of a lot of stuff I've seen that's been pretty top notch for kind of people who are Comicsgate, like he's definitely one that caught my eye. Like I really like it. It's like one of those guys, like I'd offer to work with him, but I think he's doing so well without me. Like I don't know what I would add to his artwork, like it's like, oh, that looks great. Don't change a thing.
I don't know what Question Comics is yelling at here. He says, Jesus, Oz, what the fuck? I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Perberg, that's what his name is. It's a hilarious name. I don't know which to like more, Perberg or Narwhal. So, how long have you been sort of like living out of home? Is that like since college?
Yeah.
And you've managed to, support yourself all this time with coloring.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a real lavish lifestyle. And like I said, now it's like I've got like one thing I did is I moved from Portland, which I used to live in, which is a very affordable city, although it's become way less affordable. But there's a reason why there's so many comic artists that like live out there. It was a very affordable major city. But I ended up moving back to where I'm from in West Virginia, which is just dirt cheap to live in. And it was kind of one of those things where it was like, my relationship kind of fell apart, and it was kind of, I had a problem editor at DC. So I ended up like leaving Scooby. And it was just kind of one of those things. Like I had to choose, like, am I going to like live in Portland and just, work like a regular job, like work at a coffee shop part-time, which is even that's impossible because there's so many like people trying to work in like coffee shops, or am I going to actually like, just try to make it as a comic artist? And I kind of decided I was going to move back to where I'm from, where my family is, and try to make it in comics. And it actually kind of worked out for a while. I kind of got some better work and some steady stuff. But yeah, you can't live in a major city and work in comics. Like I don't, there's a few writers that I see every now and again who are like maybe live in New York, or LA, but like, it's like all the comic artists. I don't know anyone who lives in a major city anymore outside of like Portland, because you just can't afford to do it.
Where does Kelsey live? He lives out in West Virginia land, doesn't he?
I do not know.
Can you zoom in on that at all? So
Yeah.
we can get a look at the inks.
Yeah.
So are they doing all this in vectors, or what are they doing?
Depends. Some of them are like scanning it and vector. Some of them are doing it some of them are doing it in pencil and scanning it. Some of them are doing it in Photoshop. A lot of people, like this guy, I think uses Manga Studio or one of those derivatives of Manga Studio. Like I think it's called like Clip Art 6 or something weird now. The Manga Studio and the whatever it is now is actually really, really good for like doing comic inks. There's a lot of really good tools in it. I use Photoshop, so I mean, I just it's kind of industry standard for colorists is using Photoshop. So yeah, this is how I got the page, and then, and again, it's like I don't have to like make up the colors for these characters or anything, and it's a daylight scene, so I mean, there's pretty I use pretty much the same colors I did on the covers. The only difference being is like their shadows, they just add 10% black, where I actually make the shadows have a little more color to them, because I don't really like that muddy kind of black shadow that they put on the license art. But that's more just like how the animation works. It's just easier to put like a layer that's like a 10% black, rather than like individually shade every component.
Oh, right, okay.
So yeah, they just have like a shade layer that they just put over everything. It unifies it a little bit, but like when I color stuff like this, I like to put a little more color in the shadows and differentiate them a little bit. That's
Do you know how they color the old like the eyelids on Mickey Mouse and Daffy Duck?
Color the eyelids?
Yeah. Have you seen the eyelids?
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, I'll find a picture. You should flick between that one and the other one, and we'll see the difference.
Okay. Well, I'll put my there's a bunch of different layers on this you can kind of see on the side. So this is my lines where like I dropped out some of the blacks just like on their trails and on like their eyes, because it makes it a little bit like I don't like that black on that transition. There's kind of some glowing effects on their trails here. You can't really see it in context. There's some glows on just a general kind of background. These are my colors, so this is it with everything. So here's the thing. So like this is like
I was right. KSS. People in the chat were heckling me, but West Virginia is near Louisiana.
No, it's not. They're making fun of you. But see, you can see like when I put these glows on the background to make the characters kind of recede the background, make the characters kind of stand out. So you can kind of see it here as I switch that on and off. That's probably something you wouldn't really pick up on, unless like you see me kind of do it, how much of a difference that makes.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things that I was getting yelled at from the people on Vestige too, that I was somehow like ruining Doodle's inks by like, dropping it out. But hey, that's what I did on Vestige 1. And the pages that they were really angry about were the pages that were like a flashback, where I was trying to make it look like it was on faded newsprint. So like the whites are all kind of yellow and like the inks are more kind of like a dark brown. But yeah, I guess they didn't pick up on that. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like if you just look at the page out of context, I can see where you would think like, oh, okay, well, like what do you do to the inks? Like, why are the inks like this? But I wanted them to like quickly be seen as a flashback, because other than that, like it's a flashback to like another part of the 18th century. So it's not really like, if you just look at the pages, like immediately like clear that it's a flashback. So I wanted you, if you're flipping through the book, to immediately know that this is a flashback to another time, and these are different characters in a different time frame rather than the current one. But yeah, like I said, people that was one of the things I get yelled at the most by like the war campaign kind of people, is that I had like diluted his inks too much and ruined his art. But they liked it a week before when when they were first showing him online. They all thought that was great, before everything went down.
Yeah.
But
It's interesting. I know that Ethan Van Sciver is looking for people to do a work on a basically a children's book that he's doing. So, you know,
well,
you never know. If he's looking and he likes the clean lines of your colors, then, you know, it might be something
he probably turned off after you yelled at me for mentioning his name.
Ethan can't quit me that easy.
But also, I would assume that like his colorist Kyle's pretty amazing. I assume Kyle
No, I
could
don't
probably.
think Kyle will be doing. No, Kyle is like flat out on his main book doing that sort of thing. He's doing a different kind of book for the children's book. It's more, you know, it's more like this kind of thing.
Oh yeah, like when I was getting yelled at by War Campaign, Noah Meat Amit, sorry, Campaign has not paid me yet, but no, when I was getting yelled at by War Campaign, one of the first people who jumped in kind of my defense was Cecil. And I was like, oh wow, it's Cecil. Like that was a thing like when in like the quote unquote whisper networks, like when people found out I was doing Vestige 1, the first two questions were like, one, like, what are you doing? Like, aren't they all a bunch of like Nazis? You know, why are you dealing with these people? And then the question 2 would be like, do you know Cecil? Like, without fail, everyone wanted to know if I knew Cecil. Like, do you know Cecil? Like, who is Cecil? Like, is that his real name? You know, like it's funny how like, well, Cecil is crossed over into a non-Comicsgate.
Why are people obsessed with Cecil?
He's funny. I think he's funny, and he's also not as like I think as controversial as some people are. Like Cecil really doesn't have too hard opinions. You know, he's just kind of more like kind of jolly. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of intrigue with Cecil.
Oh, well, there you go, Cecil. You're very intriguing.
Yeah, I saw he's doing kind of like a more cartoonish kind of book with Donald. I was kind of jealous that I wasn't in on that, but you know, I think they got their guy. I think it's all kind of working out for them. But yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, well, Donald does both, doesn't he?
I think they have a different colorist. I don't think Donald's coloring the thing he's doing with Cecil, but I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. I thought that there's another guy who had chimed in on my defense that was Cecil's colorist, but I could be wrong. I'm not really up on too many projects that I'm not involved with.
Right. So tell us a bit more about what's going on with Vestige. Because I think people in the audience are starting to get a bit testy with me that I'm asking you about too much art stuff, and they want more like gossip stuff.
I mean, I'm not, part of Vestige anymore. So whatever's going on with them, I'm not really up on. There is a theory that I've heard a couple of times. I'm not sure how true this is, but there's theory that their Vestige 2 is doing a lot worse than they were expecting. Like it's not doing the same money that the first one is. And there's a theory that a couple people have thrown at me that like the reason they fired me or not paying me and are trying not to pay me is because they just don't have the money. Like they're trying to go with a much cheaper colorist in order to save money because they're not making the amount of money back that they thought they were. I don't know.
Surely they've got it. But surely they've got enough money there, and also from the first Vestige.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem, you know.
Oh no, I agree. That they do have the money to pay me. Again, like, what's the guy? The Sweetcast? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He did a show I saw where he broke down how much money he made off making like $30,000 on a campaign, and I think after all the printing and shipping and paying people, all is said and done, I think he only made like he kept himself about $4,000. So maybe it's like, I mean, because Roe gets a cut of that and Gat gets a cut of it, and I don't know like how much, if anybody else in War Campaign gets a cut. I know at the first one, they actually did like a profit sharing thing where like a lot of the main War Campaign people contributed money for the, to be able to fund it, a percentage of it on the back end. So I don't know if they're still doing the same thing with the second one or not. It's kind of maybe not my story to tell, and maybe one I don't know all the ins and outs of, but like apparently like the CG Jumpstart book was a complete disaster for like they just could not agree on like how much creators were getting and how much of the someone owns of someone else's property. Like I think that was what broke down that thing entirely. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with them. That they were, like I said, they were from Vestige 1 to Vestige 2. They were a lot different. You know, it seemed like they got in fights with practically everybody, and just like burned all these bridges with people that like I don't even understand why. Like, I think like half the people who are in their CG Jumpstart are no longer on speaking terms with them. Maybe more. You know, like I said, there's people who know more about that story than I. So I don't want to comment too much on it. Just I don't want to unduly throw anyone under the bridge, but. Yeah, I mean they loved the coloring I was doing. I was getting just great feedback, and one thing I noticed is they had gotten rid of their editor after I started working on it, and when I would get notes or anything important, it was always through that editor, because I forget who said it, but I think it was Roe who said Gat is not good about writing down his thoughts, and which made me think like, dude, you've got one job as a writer, write down your thoughts. But yeah, like once the editor left, who I guess organized all his thoughts into like more of like a coherent form, like I quit getting any kind of detailed notes on anything. Like I couldn't get any kind of like notes, because I mean I'd much rather prefer you just send me an email with everything you want changed or anything concerns you have, like in future pages, like there's a this person has like electric blue bolts of energy, to make sure you get that. I wasn't getting anything after that editor left. So that might be part of it. Like the only thing I got was like I sent like the cover because they wanted me to rush the cover because they wanted to put it up as part of the campaign. And I sent the cover in, and Gat asked me if it was finished. And I was like, of course it's finished. I mean, I just gave it to you. And he was like, well, it needs more than 4 colors. I'm like, but there's more than 4 colors in it. Like it was kind of like a weird like Twitter exchange. And I was like, okay, well, let me know what you want me to fix and I'll fix it. And that's the last I heard about it. And again, like I'm not just going to like randomly fix things because I could possibly make it worse. So like he said that him and Doodle were going to do like a live chat with me and talk about what they want fixed, and that just never happened. And then the next thing I know is Ro asked me if I had any more pages completed to turn in. I turned in everything I had, and the next day he fired me. So that was all the really feedback I've gotten on the cover before then, was needs more colors, but like couldn't tell me like what was. Like, I mean, again, like, I guess if you look at the thumbnail of it, it looks like it's, very distinctly like several colors, but that's partially to make it stand out as a cover. Like a lot of things in the I put detail in that didn't have any detail. Like the sky was completely black with like a circle for the moon, and I made it into like a sky. So when overpower the colors, and again,
why don't we bring up the cover so people know what we're talking about?
Yeah. Hang on a second. I'll get it up. And again, it's one of those things where
Reed Troutman says, "Gat don't words good, bro."
But I'm not even trying to like shit on Gat, but like that's literally what they said. Like Gat just doesn't like. I mean, from what I can tell, everything in Vestige is his ideas, right? But the editor is the one who would actually kind of like write them down into like a like a script form. So I guess. Maybe I don't know what's up with that, because like I said, like the communications after the editor left were very, very different, or actually non-existent would be even a better way to describe it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't like to write things down, or he's just like kind of like the Stan Lee type where he just writes down like a paragraph and, and everyone else goes with it. Like I've never seen a script from him. I've only seen the scripts I've gotten from the editor that the editor put together.
What does that mean? Scripts that the editor put together? Oh, hang on, he's popped out. It's back again. Hang on.
I think I hit the wrong button real quick.
What do you mean? Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, I'm here. Still hear me?
What do you mean by scripts that editors have cobbled together? Like, what does that mean?
Well, all the scripts I've gotten for everything from them came through their editor. It was like compiled by because it'd be like, oh, Steve's going to get you the script. Steve's got to make corrections to the script. It was all through him. Like, it was like, if I asked for like what the times of day were, Steve would have to do it. And all the scripts were like written by Gat and Steve. So for what I can tell, it was more like Steve was more the almost like he took dictation, and Gat just kind of told him all the ideas, and Steve put them into like a coherent kind of like page, but like panel by panel, page by page form. I could be wrong about that, but that's how I understood what was going on. So, like I said, once Steve, whatever happened with him and War Campaign, because apparently like he's high on their list of people they don't like, fell apart. I quit getting those scripts. I quit getting any kind of detailed notes. It was all like, brief Twitter DMs and like, let's talk about this one-on-one kind of thing.
Was this around the same time that Steve sort of broke away from War Campaign?
I don't know exactly, because I know when I first signed on to Vestige 2, I got like a long email, or not email, a DM from Steve saying he was really glad that I was back doing Vestige 2, and was excited to work with me again. And then I got like maybe the first script with notes on it, and then I just never heard from Steve again. And it was only till much later that I found out he was on the outs with them. Like I said, I don't really pay too much attention to Twitter feuds and whatnot.
No, but you surely notice when your editor is no longer working for you, especially if he's the only one that's contacting you.
Well, I never got like they never told me he was no longer part of the project. It was just like I suddenly just stopped hearing from him. Right. I didn't get any like, oh, by the way, we parted ways with Steve, or Steve was fired.
But when was that, like, in relation to all of this? When did he? When did you stop hearing from him?
To me, it seemed like a lot of stuff went down with them maybe like 2 weeks after I signed on to Vestige 2, because they moved up the time frame for Vestige 2 like a month, because they had something else with, I don't even know what something like went down, so they had to move up the schedule for Vestige 2. And then like that was about the time they quit talking to Ethan, like, which I just vaguely heard about. I don't really even know what happened. I guess part of their crew started yelling at him on his live stream. So that's all I really understand. But just a lot of things seem to happen with them in really quick succession, and stuff I didn't even really understand. Like, I didn't understand until after I got fired that they were on the outs with like people like Cecil or that Umbrella guy, or I didn't know. So anyways, this is the cover that got me fired.
Yeah. Tug is mad at my show. It's not coming on. But I still love you, Tug. You should come on sometime.
So
this is the cover that got you fired, but you're saying that you actually gave them this cover, and then you gave them essentially another 11 pages after this?
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, this
is the actual cover that they ended up putting up on the campaign, is that right? Or did they change it?
I don't know if they ever put this up on the campaign, because I know they wanted me to change this pretty much immediately. I know they had my colors up until I called them out last week and that they weren't paying me. So they quickly had like an emergency like live stream, and then they took a bunch of stuff down, had a bunch of backer emails with the new colors. I don't know exactly if this was ever up there, to be honest with you.
Okay. And do we know what the cover's going to look like? I'm having a look on there.
I don't know. I have not looked at their campaign. I mean, I assume they're using.
So basically,
I assume it's the same artwork, just with different colors. I mean,
yeah. What we might do as well, if you can show I'll show you. I'll see what page they've got, and then we'll sort of compare it to yours, because I did this the other night when we were discussing your artwork, because a lot of people were complaining in the chat about it. And Jabba the coach says, did Oz just go after Tug? No. I asked Tug to come on and chat about the recent Dynamite stuff, but he couldn't come on. As I was saying, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I was going to say, personally, I don't like comparing my artwork to the new guys. Like, I've met that guy a couple times, like when I lived in Portland. He seems like a nice guy. It's like, the thing is, when you compare this, like, you're doing it, when anyone compares it to, it's like you're kind of looking for like who's better almost. And like, it's not, this whole situation's not the new color's fault, is what I'm trying to say. And from what I understand,
no. What?
So I don't
the
like
exercise that I was
I don't like putting myself in a position where I'm criticizing someone who follows me on a book's art. I just don't like doing it. And from what from what I heard,
just to be clear, what we were talking about, because you probably didn't see it, is that
I was saying, from what I was told, not told, but like what I saw on when they're tweeting at me, apparently they made this guy do like 15 pages in a week. So it's probably not even a fair comparison if he's doing like, that many pages a week. He's probably cutting some corners. I mean, I've seen a couple of pages he did that I did, and it's, kind of one of those things where, I mean, I did my pages my way on purpose, and he's done his pages his way on purpose, I guess. So, I mean, if you want to show what he's done, I mean, I guess go ahead, but that's, I'm probably not going to be too critical, is what I'm saying. But like I said, I did this cover on purpose. I liked it. I'm assuming that like the majority of the top is going to be covered up by the vestige logo. I mean, that's why I didn't render out the buildings as much, is because it's just going to get covered up anyways by like, a big vestige 2 logo. And if you look at like,
as I was pointing out, Jason, the other day, when I look at your work, I can see that the flats have all been done. The highlights have all been done. The mid-tones have all been done. And like you've cut out the inks. So you've got an ink layer as well. So you've got all of the, it's not like you've just turned in flats, like 4 flat colors, as you're saying. You've actually, the entire artwork is cut up, it's shaped, it's lit, and it's obviously all on different layers. So it's very easy to transform what you're showing us now into any other color scheme that they require.
I would half agree, because
okay,
I would say, because like I said earlier, once you change one of my colors, everything starts to fall apart. You have to keep changing all the colors around it. Like there was a guy I saw on Twitter who was quote unquote improving my artwork, and he made the forest kind of behind the two of them more of like I don't know, like a hunter green, and it just did not work at all. Like that kind of like more rich kind of warm green just threw off the entire color scheme. So it's not as easy as just being like, okay, we'll make like those, plants greener. Like if I'm making those greener, then I've got to change the purple behind it. Then I've got to change the characters. Like it unravels, kind of like a sweater pretty quickly. Right. But again, like, I mean, if they would, I mean, I got no instructions on what they wanted to do besides like, I don't know, maybe the one thing they brought up was maybe do something else with the moon. I don't know. But again, like, what else do you want me to do with the moon? You want to make the moon yellow? Do you want me to put craters in it? It's like, it's that kind of thing. Like those instructions are too vague. And I get the feeling they probably don't like, again, this is me supposing that like how blasted out the light is from that lantern. But if you look at the art, I mean, yeah, that lantern is putting off like nuclear levels of light. There's that's why that they're getting hit so hard with it. It's because it's like right there,
But you're just guessing. You're just guessing at what they don't like.
Yeah, I have no idea because they never told me. They just fired me. And I mean, again, if they don't like the cover, they don't like the cover. That's well within their purview of like, it's their book. If they want to get someone else to color the cover that do a different take, and that's fine. But just, kind of like not paying me and saying that I did a shitty last minute rush job is just not fair. It's just pay me the work. Just pay me the money you owe me,
What was the stuff they were going on about? Like you have to explain it to me, and don't consider me ignorant, but I could only briefly peruse what was going on. Ro was talking something about a $200 cover repayment or something. What's going on there?
That's okay. So when he initially talked to me, he said he was only going to pay me partially the money he owes me. And he was saying that I owed him money for this other project, this project called Bullet Maker. which I kind of briefly explained earlier. It was part of that CG Jumpstart thing that never came out. And basically what happened was like the whole thing was kind of falling apart. Those pages are like really, I mean, Bullet Maker's, I guess, coming out after Vestige, so you'll see it. Those pages are really difficult to work with, and I don't even think I was doing that great a job. So kind of when it became obvious that like the project was kind of not going anywhere, I basically left it, and I just gave him back half of the money. Not even half the money. Like we talked about it, Ro and I, and because Ro wanted all the money back. I was like, well, I've already done half the project, So he's like, okay, well, just give me back $200 and we'll call it even. So Ro and I agreed that if I paid him back the $200, we were even. And I think he had paid me $440. I think that's why he's saying that I owe him $240. But we'd already agreed on that. I mean, that was like a done deal. And it wasn't until after he fired me that he was saying that he was taking the money that I owed him on this other project out of the money he owed me for Vestige. And on top of that, he wasn't paying for the unacceptable pages, which, I mean, the cover, I know they said was unacceptable, but out of the other pages, I have no idea what other pages he said were unacceptable. Because he was kind of saying they all were shitty and rushed, but I mean, they obviously loved, the pages when they first got him. And like, they can't give me a number of like what pages are unacceptable, and they can't give me a definite, like, what is unacceptable about them. Like there was no like, hey, could you fix this part? And I was like, no, I'm an artist. I mean, there was none of that. They never asked me to fix anything. I mean, I would have touched up anything they asked, or at least like if I felt strongly about it, be like, okay, this is the reason this is done this way. Like people don't like those flashback pages I did that had kind of like the faded inks, but if they just would have been like, hey, I think the inks are too faded, can you make them a bit darker? I would have done that, but they never asked for that. Instead, I'm just getting like war campaign people who are like, I'm assuming are kind of like told what to say because they seem to say a lot of the same stuff, or saying, oh, you ruined his inks, you washed them out too much, you can't see the detail anymore. That's just what I'm getting from war campaign, but yeah, it's yeah, the good times here. Yeah, that's usually what I do. But like I said earlier, like I got assurance from Ro that they definitely had the money and were definitely going to pay me at the end because they'd already paid me on the previous project and they were good for it. And well, that turned out to not be true. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing though. It's like I've gotten a lot of people from War Campaign who say they're like contract experts and whatnot, and they're like, well, he can fire you for whatever because you're a blah blah blah. But it's like anybody who gets fired from their job is owed all the wages they accrued up until the firing. None of them seem to have an excuse for that. But yeah, like I said, I mean, if they like the new guy's colors, which is strange because I guess he was one of the guys they tried to get before I came on the Vestige, and they didn't go with him because he didn't color enough like me. Like it's the same guy who colored the preview page they had that Doodle drew, which you guys put up. It's like the one where there's like the big shadow and like the big picture of like Maddie in the background. You know what I'm talking about? It was on their campaign page. It's probably still on there. Well, that guy had colored that. So they had been talking to this guy since at least, I don't know, before April. So they could have hired him instead of me and just gone with that, but they hired me instead over him. And then when they got rid of me, they hired him back and acted like, they had just discovered him, but it's like, no, you've known who this guy was for a long time. And you could have, easily, hired him then, but you didn't.
Right.
So there's a lot of like real weird BS backpedaling with their relationship with me, which mostly I don't care about. I mean, I'm not real happy that they're saying my shit's, my stuff's shitty and blah, blah, blah and late. And I mean, that's kind of, I'm not real happy about that, but I just kind of want my money, say whatever you want. Just give me my fucking money, whatever you have to do to save face. I did the work, but yeah, the only way that I guess they think they can get out of paying me the money they owe me is by saying that my work was somehow of lesser quality, which I will say that, in all fairness, the new guy they have coloring the pages, I would say my pages are at least of equal quality to his. It's kind of comparing apples and oranges, but I don't see them as like a lesser, work than the new guy they have coloring, which apparently they're happy with. So like I said, it's just BS.
What, so how much do they owe you?
$765.
And that's for the cover and all the pages, the 17 pages.
Correct.
and they say that they'll pay you that minus the 240. Is that what they're saying?
Well, they're saying that they're saying that I owe them money for this past deal that, like, again, we already settled on, and they're also not paying for the cover, and then they're not paying whatever. I don't know how they've even figured this out. They're not paying the full amount for some of the other pages that they feel are lesser quality. So it's real nebulous on exactly like what they're not paying me why. But again, we had already agreed that I had, paid Roe the money he needed from that other project. So that was a done deal, which he's going back on. Like, he's saying, now all of a sudden I owe him this money. It'd be like if they fired me and I all of a sudden rescinded my discount and said they owed me even more money. They wouldn't have thought that was cool. They would have thought that would be a dick move. Like, oh, well, just because we fired you, now you're, charging us all this extra money because you're taking away your 20% discount. Yeah, I didn't do that. I'm just asking for the exact money that I had, that we had talked about that is owed to me.
So what, explain to me this $240. I still don't understand it.
Like I said, we had agreed, Roe had paid me up front for this bullet maker pages. There was like 8 pages or something. And when that whole project fell apart and I left it, I gave him back money for pages I didn't do, which ended up being $200. We both agreed on that.
Right.
Because he had paid me up front and I was refunding him the money for the work I had not yet done, which was $200. So that deal was settled. And
you gave him that money?
Yeah. I mean, he got that money that day, actually. Okay. I just PayPal'd it back to him. So, and that was, as I understood, we were done with it. Like, we had agreed on it. He'd gotten the money back. So then months later, when he fires me from this, all of a sudden he's saying that I owe him for this other project, which he's taking out of this. So he's going back on the agreement we had made, for that previous project out of the blue. I mean, like, we had, again, as far as I knew, that was a done deal. We were settled. And now all of a sudden I owe him this. And then he's not, in some of the money, he's not paying me for the cover. And then there's and whatever change is left over is money he feels he doesn't owe me for the pages I did for, like, I don't know, a quality reason. Again, it doesn't just, we didn't have like a written down contract, which again is, my bad. We just had like a verbal agreement because they try to do a bunch of contracts with people on that CG Jumpstart, which again, I don't know the ins and outs of, but apparently they were very, very one-sided towards War Campaign, which is why a lot of people left that CG Jumpstart, or one of the reasons. So I guess they didn't want to repeat that, so we didn't have a contract with Roe and Gat. We just had a verbal agreement that, like, this is the amount of pages I'm doing for this amount of money, and they're due on this date. So then when they fire me, they were all of a sudden saying that they didn't owe me this money for this or for that, and it's, like I said, it's real shitty.
Plan 9 Good Time says, artists, establish a contract before starting. As a person that has been screwed by friends, I've learned some lessons the hard way.
Oh, exactly. Like, everyone who does comics, or like does indie comics, has stories similar to mine in Vestige. Like, I mean, I have several similar ones to this thing, but like they always end up paying in the end. It's always like they always figured out that the amount of shit they're going to get for not paying an artist and, hassle going to go through is not worth the money. Like, that they're like, it's one of those things like, like
the reality is you've got the text messages that says, yes, we agreed to pay you this much, but I'm only going to pay you this much because you owe me $240 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So he obviously, he obviously realizes.
He put out some emails too that we had agreed on, which I thought was strange because it was like, it just bolsters my case more. It was kind of like an odd thing that he put out there. And he was like, well, you put out some DMs, now I'm putting out our emails. I'm like, good. Like, when I email or DM someone, I always do so in a professional manner because for this very reason. Like, I always make sure I don't say anything, it's going to come back in my face for that very reason. I mean, you can put out all my DMs and emails. I don't have anything to hide. Again, we agreed to this, and then he's going back on it.
All right. Do you mind if I ask the chat whether they've got any questions for you? I mean, you don't have to answer them if you don't want, but
Oh yeah, we'll take it on a basis.
Take it on a case by case. No worries. I don't think there's any war campaign in here yelling at you, so
Well, it's because they're
there
on their
shouldn't be
own.
anything harsh.
They're on their own stream, like yelling at both of us right now, and you know. Anyways, go ahead.
Okay. Are they gonna? Is there a replay of that stream somewhere?
On whatever like Angel Fire site that it's hosted on now. I don't know. I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure they're stream sniping it, if not now, later, because that's kind of what they do. So,
okay.
And again, hello to everyone in War Campaign. Sorry, Vestige didn't work out, but I hope you like the the new pages.
So, Lethal Diva says you should go over some of the meaner tweets, Oz. Mean to Ro or mean to poor Jason here?
And I don't think I said anything too mean to those guys. Like I said, I try to keep it, professional for being professional's sake, but I got plenty of mean tweets coming my way.
Tree Goblin says, why was the sky purple and the ground blue?
Artistic license. Like, real quick, just kind of a rule of coloring that I like to follow is like, there's something in coloring they call local color, which is basically just what the colors are under, like, perfect lighting. Like Superman's cape is red, like the street is gray, that kind of thing. And local color is good for just pure information, but it doesn't really set a mood. It doesn't really give you any kind of like emotional resonance. It's good for like if you're like having establishing a shot of like a city and you're really trying to show people like this is the city that they live in. But when you start doing weird or, in my case, bisexual colors, that's when things get weird. Like, you start to show kind of a mood. Like, let me show you this.
James Hayes says, I honestly don't see how War Campaign can survive long term with the big names all ganging up to turn the audience on them. I hope you don't think I'm one of those. Well, no, because I'm not a big name, so it's all right. I'm not saying anything mean about War Campaign.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, except for like the 12 or so people that they had come at me for like 48 hours, I mean, the majority of people in War Campaign have been very nice to me. Most of them before
who were those 12 people?
I don't know, but I recognized almost all of them as people who were like my big supporters before that this happened. People who, liked every one of my tweets, definitely liked all the art I was doing. So, I mean, again, it's like from what I was told, they had like an emergency like live stream, and they were going into a bunch of their Discord groups trying to rally people to come at me, and it didn't really work that well. They only had about 12 hardcore people who came at me. But here's a page that Gat put up that he was really proud of, that everyone really liked, and even Doodle retweeted this. I think Doodle's exact words were, "It makes such a difference when you're colored by someone who knows what they're doing." And the reason I put this up is, well, two reasons. One, this uses kind of odd colors to like really show a mood. And two, this is
Hang on a sec. I'm sorry, I'm covering a bit of your art here, but I've got to address this one. Jeff Muth, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe. Says, just a question. How is it right not having someone from War Campaign here too? Well, just so you know, my understanding is the Road doesn't want any of War Campaign coming on my show or any other creator shows, because they put a ban out essentially on people promoting any other creators and or going on any other people's shows. So there's nothing I can do. If people want to come into the chat and ask questions, I'll put them across. There's no need for Jason to answer them if he doesn't want to. But I mean, what else can I do except in terms, if people won't have a dialogue, what can I do?
Well, I would add that outside of Gat and Rowe, I mean, who else in War Campaign is qualified to really talk about these issues? Like if you get to some random War Campaign supporter on here, I mean, what do they really know about the ins and outs of kind of what's going on here?
Yeah, well, Squisher 420 brings it across that point as well. Other than Gat or Rowe,
who
else was really involved?
Yeah, so I mean, you could get like even like a Tyler and Pan. I don't believe are really involved in any way, shape, or form with like the Vestige. So I mean, even though they're big war campaign guys, I mean, they really wouldn't have, besides what Roe and Gad have told them, they really wouldn't have any real insight. But
that's never stopped anyone from yelling in my chat before.
Well, I mean, that's the internet, but so like this is an example of like, one, this has got the faded inks because it's part of the flashback, and two, like she's got like basically her skin is like this because I wanted it to be really apparent from just looking at her that she is dead. She has died. She's expired. And I want you to look at this instantly and kind of get a mood down. Now, I know like the normal guy or the new guy, he colored this page like he colored all the other pages. So, I mean, if you're flipping through the book, it's probably not real apparent what's going on. But like, I want you, like all my pages, look at it and instantly kind of get, even if you don't know what's going on exactly, you get the feel of what's going on. You understand, something's sinister has gone down. And again, this page, Gat was so happy with, he posted on Twitter, and Doodle was so happy with that he reposted Gat's post. So, and I'm assuming this is like one of the pages they did not like, suddenly.
El Hombre says her tits look very much alive.
Yeah, they have a.
It's important to have a good-looking corpse.
So yeah,
Live
I mean,
fast, die young, all that.
And like I said, I'm not criticizing the new guy, but yeah, like I saw him when he colored it. He colored her just a regular like flesh tone, and I don't think it really put the right kind of feel to the whole thing. In my opinion, I mean, maybe he was just rushed for time. Maybe he intentionally did it that way and just disagrees with how dead I made her look. But I really wanted to make her look just deceased. You still there, Oz?
Yeah, I'm just I'm clicking buttons. It takes a lot of effort. You've got no idea.
Yeah, see, that's the new page. And again, I don't really like to comment on too much because A, I don't like commenting on people's work, and B, I don't, it's not going to come off well if I'm criticizing someone who replaced me after I'm fired. But like I said, I met this guy a couple times. Nice guy. So, Oz, what are your thoughts on the difference in style?
Oh, as I said, I don't have a problem with your style. I think it's I personally would make full blacks, but that's because as an artist, I'd want to see my blacks come through, and also just as someone who looks at comic art, I generally look at colors as serving the inks. So I never like to have anything but black ink for the inks. That's the only thing that I would really change.
And that's a legit criticism. I mean, like I said, I made
that's not even a criticism. It's just an adjustment. It's like, can you please just make the ink layer black? Yeah, that's all I would say. Like
I said, I made the inks kind of brownish, and like the whites aren't really white; they're kind of yellowish because I wanted to look like it was like on faded newsprint, like an old kind of faded comic that's been like left out in the sun. Just so when you're flipping through, you understand instantly that like this is a flashback and not in the in like the present. Which again, that was the only real criticism I have of the other guy's coloring is like it's colored just like all the other pages. So I don't think there's anything to let you in, quickly that this is like a different time frame. These characters are in a different, But again, that's why I colored it this way. I mean, the other guy had his reasons for coloring it the way he did.
Yeah. What does the chat think? Do you like it? Do you agree with me that it's good, or do you agree with War Campaign that it's terrible and he shouldn't be paid for his work?
And again, it's like if they just thought that my style was wrong for this, and they thought the other guy's style was better, that's legit. If they just want, But
Spirit Scar says, under pain of torture, so does Jason think Steve Dyer had more to do with the strength of the Vestige story than people realize?
Personally, I think he did. Not to say that like I mean, from what I can tell, Vestige is entirely from Gat's imagination. You know, as translated through the pencils of Donald and Doodle, right? I've seen no evidence that like any part of the story or characterization came from Steve. Having said that, though, just from my experience, it seems to me that Steve is the one who's organizing Gat's thoughts into a coherent script. Like he's dealing with pacing, he's dealing with panel breakdowns, possibly dealing with some like dialogue choices. So I get the feeling that if a Vestige 3 comes out, it's going to be radically different, like than the other two, just because Steve's not the one organizing it. Like if Gat's doing it himself, I think it's going to be just a lot more incoherent, and it's going to have just a way different kind of feel than when Steve was on it. If that makes sense to you.
Lord CG Oracle says, how did the coloring style change between Vestige 1 and Vestige 2?
It really didn't. But having said that,
spelling Vestige on incorrect on purpose just to annoy me. But go on.
Like I've got my technique and I've got how I color, but every penciler is different. So even though I'm using more or less the same techniques and tricks, whatever I was using on Vestige 1, it's really different just because it's Doodle, not Donald. Like a big example would be Donald tends to use a lot of black on his characters, like a lot of like heavy black shading on his characters, but he doesn't really use too much black on his backgrounds, where Doodle is almost the opposite. Doodle uses an excessive amount of blacks. And again, I've actually talked to Doodle about this, so I mean, I'm not talking shit about him behind his back, but like Doodle uses like what I feel is like excessive amount of blacks on his backgrounds, but his characters for the most part don't have too many like huge black shadows on them.
Reed Troutman asks, so are the non-flashback scenes keep the inks black?
For the most part. Here, let me show you another page just so you can see what like quote unquote a normal page from Vestige would look like.
Okay, I apologize, Lord CG Oracle, if you weren't baiting me on purpose. That's fine. If you can't spell, that's fine. I never yell at my chat. They're all wonderful people. I just ask that we all grow together.
So I got another page up. So this one, like they showed they actually had up on the campaign for a long time. I think they've shown like the new guys, but this is about the, normal level of blacks on like the pages. And this page has a lot of black on it. So there's definitely some parts where like the color effects kind of override the blacks, but for the most part, I mean, the blacks are black.
Yep. Yeah, I can see that. And so that's sort of representative of how most of the 11 pages would have looked.
And well, yes and no. It's representative of like that particular part where there's a lot of heavy blacks. Let's show another page that I got some criticism on. So here's another page up. Now this page, I mean, I think this is probably indicative where like I've actually, a lot of the stuff that he just made straight up black, I actually put like color in, like a lot of the water is black. And people were like, why is the water all green? Well, it's like, if you look at like seawater is kind of greenish and she has kind of blue skin. So I didn't want her skin to be the same color as like the water. And plus this is an action scene. So everything's kind of warmer to make it seem more immediate. So everything's got kind of like more of like a kind of yellowish, orangish kind of like tint to it. It's again, like I do a lot of things like that. If I'm using like odd colors, it's usually because I'm trying to like express a mood or action or sadness or dread or, whatever. Like I'm trying to just kind of bump it one way or another to make it, give the reader more of like, it's almost like I always think of being a colorist as being more like the guy who does a soundtrack for a movie. Like I'm really kind of pumping up the emotion, almost in ways like you don't really like process, but you just kind of feel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the color palette on this page. KSS says, were there any major complaints or issues on the first book, like in regards to colors or time it took? The first Zero book.
Yes and no. Like the colors, I never got any kind of clapback on. I might have gotten one or two little things of like, maybe, make this stand out more kind of thing. I don't really remember getting any real notes from Vestige 1, to be quite honest with you. I think like I was saying earlier, when you're a freelance colorist, like you have many projects you're juggling at once. So it's like, even if you have like, say like 3 months to work on a book, you don't really have 3 months where you're just working on that book. I mean, you've got to kind of do what's due. You got to finish what's due first and then kind of do what's, due next kind of thing. So like in the middle of Vestige, the first one, I did like another book in the middle of it. And there was some like, where I haven't seen any pages in a while. What happened? It's like, well, I'm working on this other book. Like I hadn't gotten all the pages from Donald. So it was like in the middle, I kind of took a little break and then got back to it. And then, I turned my pages like on time. And then like, I think they ended up being like 4 months late putting the book out just because they just didn't know how to put a book out, which is understandable. I mean, the first time you put a book out, there's like a million things, that you didn't think of that crop up, a million fires you have to put out. So, but I remember that being kind of an issue in the middle of the first Vestige where they were getting a steady stream of pages and then like they kind of stopped for a while and they were kind of like, well, why did it stop? It's like, well, I got this other thing to do. And I would say that almost all amateur creators don't understand that aspect of being a professional. Like you've just got to, even if it's like, an equal thing, it's like, well, if in the middle of doing your book, IDW asked me to do a book, I've got to do that one, even if the pay's the same, because they've got more work they can potentially do for me. Where you've got this one book where, yeah, everyone who talks to you has a million chapters of this thing that they say they're going to put out. But I mean, you kind of go where like there's the more potential work. Again, more eyes are probably going to be on an IDW book.
Yeah.
So that's just the reality of the business. Like, sorry guys, but I kind of. But again, I got the first one out on time too. It's just like they were mad that there was like a little break in the middle. But again, like I said earlier, it's like we agreed on a certain time for me to have all those pages in, and and I have them in by that time. Like you're not getting them earlier, unless I just feel like doing it because you didn't pay for them to be earlier. We agreed upon this time, you're getting them on that time.
Delta Spurgforce, who likes to yell at me, says, I think too much transparency in process of these projects and too much social media.
Sure. I mean, that I agree with that too. Like if you look back at my Twitter feed, like when they first fired me that day, I put out a thing going, hey, I parted ways with the Vestige crew and I wish them all the best of luck, because I was, at that point I thought I was going to get paid. And then literally like the next day, Ro emailed me saying he's not going to pay me all the money he owes me. But, I'm more than happy. Like if we part ways, if you just give me my money, cool. There's a lot of like weird inside kind of bullshit that, I personally don't like talking about. Like, I kind of promised this to Tug, but I've got a huge story about me getting screwed over by Tess Fowler and Shelley Bond, which I haven't made public yet. But
okay. Well, I don't want to steal from Tug.
But
you tell Tug that story, and then you come back and let me know.
But at the same time, they paid me for that project, so I was like, okay, well, moving on. Like the only reason I went public with this is because Ro basically said he's just not paying me the money that he owes me. What am I going to do about it? So really going public like this and kind of publicly shaming someone for not paying you is really the last, it's the nuclear option. I mean, it's, this is the only time I've ever had to do this. Everyone else is kind of smartened up who's tried something similar.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, it is up to companies to keep these things in-house, because the reality of social media now is that creators do have a voice as well as the editorial.
Oh, that, like, I mean, if they're trying to do more comics in the future, I mean, they're already having problems getting people to work with their comics. I mean, they expressed to me before the whole reason I was even working with Vestige, they just could not find anyone to work with them who was doing colors. And they just, kind of got a hold of me on Twitter. But they were expressing, even after the first one was a success, they really couldn't find quality people to work with them. And the thing is, like, yeah, they owe me $765, but like, you can't pay $765 to repair your reputation. That's kind of what I warned them about. It's like, if word gets out that you're not paying your creators, like the people who hate you, which there's a lot of them, are never going to let you forget that. Even if you pay me the money, like you're still going to have someone go, "Oh, I heard you didn't pay people." Like, I mean, the only way
there's another company recently that wasn't paying artists.
Oh yeah, like that stigma never leaves. Like once it's out there, I mean, there's a lot of companies that aren't paying artists.
Like who?
I mean, Xenoscope is famous for it.
Right.
Xenoscope basically just strings you along saying they're going to pay you until you quit. By that time, they've hired the next guy, Like I've always told people, like, dude, because Xenoscope, it's relatively easy to get some comics for that come out. Now I've told people before, like, if you're starting out comics and you just want to get your work out there and show that you can make a deadline and do quality work, sure, go with Xenoscope, but just don't ever expect to get that money. Because the only people I know who've ever gotten paid from Xenoscope, I mean, had to fight them tooth and nail to eventually get paid. So there's a bunch of there's like some other smaller companies have like weird things in their like their contracts where like you don't get paid any money if the book doesn't sell above like say like 10,000 copies, and like all their books sell like 6,000 copies. I mean, it's like that shit happens pretty. But those places are never really a success. I mean, that no one's a success by not paying the people who work for them, and that's just not how that works. Like no one's like no one has made a success out of not paying people, because the word comes out, and like it's like all those companies that have those problems paying people. I mean, it's like the last step before they're done. I mean, they end up folding. Like Dreamwave was a big one. If you remember Dreamwave comics from like the 2000s.
Yes.
Like
Blaze Matan Art says, special place in hell for those that don't pay artists. Lol. Welcome to the show. Please subscribe and correct me phonetically in the chat if I've said your name wrong.
All right. And like a lot of people hire like the third world kind of like cheap colorists or pencilers. They also like tend to like try to screw those people over too. So I mean, it's like, what are you gonna do about it? You're in the Philippines. Good luck finding a lawyer, kind of thing. But again, it's like, well, then you just keep getting worse and worse people who work for you. I mean, people who are like either new at this or desperate, or I mean, that's not a good way to like I was telling someone the other day, it's like no one has ever looked at a book in their hand and gone, man, this is shitty, but it sure came out on time. Like the only way you can really grow your brand as an independent creator is by having quality work, because no one cares like how much you paid for the artist. No one cares when the book came out, when they have it in their hand. So, I mean, the only thing you can, the only way you can grow your brand is by having quality art, and you can't do that by screwing people over. So,
I'm just sorry. I was just reading the chat there. Plan 9 Good Time says he's reading the audience. That's good. CG is Wild West. He will get work for outing them. Otherwise, it usually comes off as sour grapes.
Yeah, I mean, again, my whole issue like with this is not that like I got fired and not that they don't like my coloring, but just pay me for the work I did. It's like, fine, you don't like my coloring, even though you loved it a week ago. Just pay me for the work, and we'll just go our separate ways. Like it doesn't benefit me, but it certainly doesn't benefit them by doing this shit.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, it's always going to be like it's always going to be 1,000 times worse for the person who's the publisher than is the artist, because artists will always sympathize with the artist that's being screwed over, even if like they think that the artist deserves it. Like all that the bullshit contract stuff they've been throwing at me, like I can't see them ever working with someone again who doesn't have like an ironclad contract that is not there in their favor. Because like they were saying that Roe and them should have made me sign an NDA, and it's like, yeah, good luck getting someone quality work with you and then trying to make them sign an NDA beforehand about how you're treated, because that's almost like a red flag of like, we're going to screw you over, but we don't want you to tell everyone we're screwing you over. Like, good luck getting anyone to work with you who's going to sign that NDA. And if they are going to sign that NDA, they're going to definitely also sign stuff like, you owe me this amount of money at this time. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a whole like rabbit hole they're going down that I don't think is going to benefit them at all by just not paying me. But I mean, it's also one of those things, like, I think they're just going to have to learn this the hard way. I mean, it's, they seem to not really get what's going on. I mean, their impulse was just to like smear me, but as soon as the other people, because I've actually had some people who contacted me who've also had problems with them, who are like, yeah, I saw you, come out and talk about this. I might come out and tell my dealings with them soon. So then that happens. You get that steamroller effect where everyone starts coming out and airing their dirty laundry with you. So
Lock It Up Inc. hasn't been paying attention at all. Says, Jason, how many pages did you? 17 plus the cover.
17.
And what was the agreed upon price per page? It was, what was it, 55 minus 25% or something?
It was 45 times, I think 17. I think it's 17 with cover. Like the cover's included in that. So yeah, it comes out to $765.
Yeah. And there's some argument for some reason about $240 as part of $440 for incomplete work, but you say you guys had an agreement that it was going to just be $200 that you paid.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things.
That.
Yeah,
so
I had done.
This is an entirely different situation.
I had done slightly more than half the work on that project, so it wasn't exactly like 220 down the middle. But yeah, I mean, I refunded them the money for work I had not done.
Yeah.
Which seemed to please everybody until very recently.
Oh, I've impressed Nimprod Productions. He says, even thou, Oz is butthurt for me saying he always tries to make a shit show. I congratulate him for changing and making this a better show. Great job at Oz Art Creations. Thank you so much, Nimprod. I'm glad that whatever I did improved the show for you.
I didn't get that impression. I watched a bit of the other show because you said they were discussing the situation on there. I didn't really get the impression that your show was hugely controversial, but maybe I'm wrong.
My show's not hugely controversial at all. That's the controversy.
Yeah.
People are worried about coming on just as you were. But I don't know.
I wasn't
the reality of the experience.
I'll be honest, I don't think I was ever worried about coming on. It was more just like a logistics thing since, with time and everything, me with my job and, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I'll go on pretty much anybody's show who asks me that, isn't like, I'm not a good guest for every show. Like I was on the Work Campaign show and I was a terrible guest because that's not what they tune in for. But then again, maybe a week after I did Work Campaign during Vestige 1, I did this other guy, Vinny, something or other, and we actually had a really good show where we just discussed art and working in comics and whatnot. So like, I mean, I was on the Work Campaign show trying to explain to them Marcel Duchamp, like I'm not that guest, but yeah, if you want to talk inside baseball, I mean, and the process of making a comic, I'm a good guest.
Why would you be interested in Duchamp?
Someone brought up the picture of Armut, and I was trying to explain to him like how Duchamp was making a statement about how people didn't care about art. They just cared about artists. That's why he signed the urinal with Armut, because he was saying that people only cared about art from an artist. They didn't really care about the art in and of itself. Yeah. So that didn't go over well.
Right.
They're like
happy with that analysis.
Well, they were just like, I don't want to talk about this. Let's make more dick memes about people we don't like. But again, if that's why you tune in the Work Campaign, sure, that's I'm a bad guest for that. That's not what I'm going to be thrown back at you. So,
yeah. Well, I would love to talk about modern art with you, but we probably would lose this audience. I had a brief chat about 20th century impressionism with a couple of guests. I think we probably lost a few viewers because of that. Maybe lost some subs, but these things happen.
You're in Australia, correct?
I am.
Are you familiar with Art versus Reality?
No, I'm not actually.
There's a really amazing 6-part short series. I think each episode is like 10 minutes, done by an Australian guy called Art versus Reality, where he kind of breaks down like different aspects of art and like especially modern art and kind of talks about like why they're bullshit. but I reference that all the time. It's amazing. Like he talks about like, art galleries. He talks about art schools. He talks about like what, like the idea of like an artistic genius. And really, he just kind of makes it just seem like it's all complete shit. And he's pretty much right. But yeah, it's amazing to check out.
Yeah, I would. If there's anything that I would recommend in terms of Australian production, it would be This Is Not Modern Art by Robert Hughes. It's an amazing book and it's a fantastic television series. I think it's only a 2 or a 4-part.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. But yeah, Art versus Reality is
He's one of the best art critics that ever lived. He died probably, gosh, maybe 5 or 10 years ago now. He had this he had this car accident and nearly died prior, and he was in like a coma for 2 weeks or something. And he said all he saw while he was in that coma were horrific images of artwork that he'd been viewing. It was like Goya, like dark pictures by Goya and so on.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, the Art versus Reality thing, they talk about a lot about how modern art and the galleries kind of feed off each other, because modern art outside of a gallery is just nothing, where like a traditional painting is still a painting,
Gigadeath, the graphic novel, who's going to come on when he's closer to releasing his book, says modern art sucks and postmodern as well.
I believe Gigadeath is that's the novel that I think Doodle's doing, right?
I have no idea. Is that true, Gigadeath? Is Doodle's doing a Doodle for you?
I think that's Doodle, and I think that's the Colors that's doing Doodle now on Vestige. And if I'm correct, I think that was supposed to be in the CG Jumpstart, and that was one of the projects that they wanted to own part of, and the Gigadeath team said no. But I could be wrong. So if I am wrong about that, just please pop up in the chat and tell me I'm wrong.
We've got a fan of Robert Hughes in the chat. Calling me surprised. Tolfer, his Goya biography is a good read. Yeah, he does focus on his end days, though. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so KSS, he summarizes what I just said. He says, I would love to talk modern art with you, but my audience is not compromised of snooty people who'll be spending the next 50 years of their lives as waiters. Paying off in art degrees. Oz. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, modern art, like, it's kind of one of those things where there definitely is like a use for it, but it's like too much and too much bullshit. Like it's in the Art versus Reality, they're saying that one of the reasons that modern art is caught on is because it's really hard to teach someone how to draw, but it's really easy how to teach them how to like question things. And that's mostly what modern art is, just questioning the modern society. And again, like it feeds into the galleries because the galleries need, stuff to sell. It's a weird, like, okay. Yeah. Yep. See, Doodle is on Giga. Yeah. I thought I recognized this stuff. Yeah. That Giga, graphic novel looks pretty good. Like I said, I think that's the same colors he's doing Vestige now. So maybe when he's got more time and more, less constraints, it'll be a very different. I don't think. Okay, maybe it's a different colorist. I could be wrong because it looks like a similar style. But yeah. Anyways, Doodle and I may.
El Hombre says, "Is everyone in the chat dyslexic?"
I'll say
not me, El Hombre.
I'll say that Vestige very well may not be the last time that Doodle and I work on something together. I'll leave it at that. There's some talks of me and Doodle doing more stuff. So if you like,
Geek Chorus got a new video up, has he?
So yeah, if you like the pages that I showed you, maybe there'll be some more similar pages in the future, or maybe not. Things fall apart all the time. Every time I go to a convention, like I've got like 10 different projects that people are like adamant that we're going to start working on, in a month, and then half of it, like, it just never comes to fruition.
That's artist for you. Doug Tenaple, who apparently is responsible for all our success in life, says, I was a fine art major in college, and Jason Lewis is speaking the truth. Modern art is caca.
Is that
Actually,
the real?
that's not what Jason was saying.
Wait, is that the real Doug Tenaple?
Yes.
Oh, really? I love Doug's
Yes.
stuff.
Why do you sound
Doug,
so
if you're listening, well, I don't. It's the internet. It could be anyone just saying, "I'm Doug Tenaple." You know, it's that's I didn't know that was Ethan earlier, but I would say if you're listening, Doug, one of my favorite original graphic novels of all time is Creature Tech. Like I have had that from back in the day. I thought that was a brilliant graphic novel, and I'm always recommending to people. I think they recently colored it, which I like the old black and white, but yeah, Doug Tenaple.
Yeah, he's got a colorist who apparently is wasted all the time.
Yeah, well,
does
he work with Cecil? It's a joke.
No, that's drunk. I think she's high as a kite.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's what the chat. That's not my accusation. I did not accuse her of that. It's just that's what the chat was saying.
I'm not going there. So, what were you going to say, Oz? Before we were slandering.
Oh yeah. Before the chat was slandering, I wasn't slandering her. The chat was. I don't remember actually. Oh, you were talking about her colors.
Well, I've not seen her colors, but all I know is like I thought I saw something that they were coloring Creature Tech, and I really liked Creature Tech black and white. So I don't know, maybe I'm being snooty about it. Maybe her colors make it even better.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, why do people do anything on the internet? I mean, there's a work campaign guy that they let me know was actually pretends to be a girl who actually gets catfishes other work campaign people, which they explained about half of that to me, and I was like, I don't want to know any more about this. This sounds weird, but yeah. So I mean, people pretend to be other people all the time on the internet. So
someone was catfishing war campaign members
as a female, like I guess getting them to get into like I don't know role play chats and stuff. I didn't understand it, but they were like, there was like one time we're talking about Vestige 1. They're like, oh, we got to cut this chat short because we have to have a tribunal for this guy who's catfishing other people in war campaign. I was like, okay, well, you know, like, well, good luck. You know, like I said, I don't get too involved in the non-work part of it.
I think Doug is a bit gay for you. He says the colors make it sell 4 times more.
I think he's talking about Creature Tech.
I know. But I'm kind of pretending it was you that he's trying to impress.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, like I said, I've not seen it, and you know, it's probably unfair of me to cast any kind of judgment. But I just really like the black and white Creature Tech. So, you know, like I said, I hope to be proven wrong. You know, I hope I hope the colors make it 4 times better. Why would anyone want to catfish comic nerds? I don't know. Why does anyone want to do anything on the internet? Like I remember when I first started hearing about Comicsgate, there was some guy who had hired a voice actress to like harass like your boy Zach. Do you remember anything about that? It was like he had hired a voice actress to pretend to be someone else to make these videos, and then he said that like someone in Comicsgate had murdered her. It was like a really like bizarre. I never really figured out what was up with that. It was like
something, wasn't it? It was a Mandy.
That sounds right. But it was like one of those things where it was like, what is going on with this Comicsgate thing? You know, it was like I had to know more. Like, what is up with this shit?
Melissa Morg, not Mandy.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and his wife called up. She either called up EVS or she called up. I think she called up EVS and begged him to help her out because the husband had gone crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're spending
all his time on pretending to be this woman on the internet.
Yeah, but I never really, because that was like right when I kind of discovered it. So I think I discovered it after that whole went down. So it was just kind of confusing. But I was like, man, what is up with like a Comicsgate? This sounds crazy.
Sucks to be you, Reed Troutman. I actually know about Melissa Morg.
Yeah, but that was completely like a guy who's pretending to be a woman, right? I mean, that was my point. Yeah, like he had hired a voice actress, like he had gone that far to like pretend he was. Yeah, that's nuts. But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know, because I remember like back in the day, like Comicsgate was like you would watch like the videos, and back when everyone got along, it was actually just kind of funny. But now it seems like there's all these like weird, bitter rivalries, and people are mad at each other, and it's really hard to tell like what exactly went wrong with everybody. It's like, oh, I don't know, these two don't get along anymore. But I remember like those old videos where there'd be like Cecil and Doug and all on Ethan's stream with like, and then now it seems like no one gets along. It's kind of, as someone who occasionally would watch those videos for like entertainment purposes, it's kind of a shame. But I mean, I'm sure everyone has their reasons why they're not buddies right now.
Christopher Spirit Flute. What a fantastic name. Please subscribe. These two know so much lore. Well, you've been around for a while, haven't you, Jason?
Well, I mean, I've been around, but like I said, I'm just a casual kind of observer of the Comicsgate thing, like everybody else in the industry. Like I said, when it first came out, it was way too like, what's going on? Like there's like alt-right people who are like taking down like, like editors at Marvel. And it was like, when you look into it, it's like, oh wait, these people have like some legit concerns. And I guess that's the reason I kind of still like, I defend Comicsgate to like a point where it's like, there's all these huge concerns in the industry that like no one else seems to ever talk about because it hurts their wallet, I would assume. It's like the definition of neoliberalism. Like you believe in liberalism until it interferes with capitalism. So like every time there's a huge scandal, it's like everyone already knew that this guy was bad news, but no one said anything because it always goes down to because they didn't want denied work. So it seems like it's only Comicsgate that's really like addressing some of these issues that like no one else will even touch in the comic industry.
Yeah,
that's my feeling of it.
I've put the link in the chat for you to come in, Doug, because Jason is a big fan and he wants to meet you.
Yeah, I met the one time I went to San Diego Comic-Con, I actually met Doug and told him how much I like Creature Tech, because I think it come out around the same time. But yeah, I mean, it's I like I said, and there's a lot of like, artists are treated terribly in this industry, and it seems like no one ever says anything about it until like they've been like completely fired from like one of the big two. Like, do you remember when a Sin of Grace said that thing about like him getting fired? Do you remember that?
Cena, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, that's pretty normal shit. Oh, this is a real Doug Apple.
Hey, Jason.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good.
I'll be back in a sec, Doug. Can you just take over for a bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we met at Comic-Con once.
Yeah, you had a table kind of like, I want to say not on the main floor, but like on like when you walk in.
Yep.
About 2008. And I just went over there and I was like, I really like Creature Tech, and you're like, thank you. But you had like a long line of people, so.
Yeah, tell all these Comicsgate crybabies how big of a talent I am at Comic-Con. How mainstream of a guy I am. With a bigger line than Ethan had for his Green Lantern stuff. I had at my booth.
I feel like this is a trap.
It is.
Yeah, I don't even know if Ethan was there the year that I went there. I don't remember seeing him.
Yeah, he's but no one noticed whether if he was there or not. They notice when I'm not there.
Like I said, this feels like a trap.
It is
that I don't want to fall into. So
it still is.
Okay, well, I'll take your word on it there, Doug.
Yeah. But thanks for liking Creature Tech. Yeah, we did a color version of that this last year with my colorist Catherine.
Okay.
Just this is what's weird is I prefer black and white like you. I really like black and white art, but you color a book and 4 times the people buy it.
Yeah, I mean that's the big rub with colorists is like no one wants to like pay for colors, but then they understand that like a black and white book doesn't sell, so it's kind of.
I pay for my colorist because it really sells books. And then it's weird because everyone who comes and talks to me says, I'd rather they were black and white. I'm like, yeah, but you realize you're only 1/4 of the audience. The other 75% will just, without even thinking, rather buy color work. Yeah,
it's one of those things like when you're flipping through a book that's black and white, I mean, it's hard for the pages to really stand out.
No.
I mean, from what I haven't looked at my copy of Creature Tech for a while, but like I remember like it being designed for like black and white. I don't.
Yeah, I draw better when I intend it to be black and white than when I draw for stuff that I know is going to be colored.
Yeah. So I guess I shouldn't really said anything, but like that, my only apprehension was like it seemed to me like it was complete as a black and white piece, not maybe a colored piece. But again, I've not seen it, so I'm probably
No, you're
talking
right.
out of
I
my ass.
intended it to be complete as a black and white piece.
Yeah.
And then when you do we did like 5 printings of that thing.
Oh, okay.
So like that's like 25,000 books that we sold through Image. And then I did it in color. And that was after it went through 3 print runs with a different publisher with top. So that's already sold 40,000 copies.
I want to say that the copy I had was Top Shelf.
That's the top. Correct? That's the one. That was the original publisher before I flipped it to Image. And then, so after we sold 40,000 copies, which already outsells all of Cyberfrog, 40,000 copies on one of my smaller books. I'm only saying this to drive the chat crazy because I know they're big EVS fans. Then we colored it, and Image did another printing of it in color. Those are 5,000 books in color. I think we have about 1,800 left of those to sell out. Just for my peace of mind, you and EVS don't get along, I'm assuming. That's the best way I'd describe it, is we just don't get along. Okay. I can't tell if like we can tolerate each other. We're not gonna if I saw him at a bar, we wouldn't kill each other, we wouldn't go to blows, we wouldn't start screaming at each other, we'd buy each other a drink. I'm almost positive of it. So, okay. I can't tell exactly how friendly the competition is, so it's hard to describe. I don't know of anyone in CG, no matter how bad and stupid they are, even like Roe or Pan or any of those guys. I think if we met in real life, we'd buy each other a drink. I hat Doug's, those berserk guts. I hat you too, brother. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's I just kind of want my money from Gatton Row. Like, yeah, that's my real. I mean, if they would have paid me, I would have been like, okay, well, good luck with your book. So you did work for them and they didn't pay you? Yeah, dude, that's a screw job. Well, it's even better than that, because I'm assuming you haven't been following this, because why would you? But like, I did their first, because I'm a grown man and I'm already wearing a dress just for the little bit of the drama that I know about. It's already to my shame. But go ahead. Well, real quick, I did their first Vestige book, and then I was coloring their second one, and they decided about almost a month ago on the 4th to fire me for various reasons, and then go with a different colorist, which is fine with me. But all the reasons they've been saying is because they say I'm shitty and I can't keep deadlines, even though our deadline is on the 1st of August. So I mean, but they just keep saying I'm a shitty colorist, and my pages were inadequate, and they were lazy and unfinished, and that's why they're not giving me any of the money, and they're going with a different colorist, which is like, if you like this other colorist, sure, yeah, I mean, okay, go with them, just pay me the money you owe me, and we'll just go separate ways. You also, did they say that in public about you? Well, they did after I brought up that they weren't paying me. I think, okay. I don't generally believe in airing this stuff out in public, both that they didn't pay you. I mean, I guess that's the only thing you can say about it, but yeah, there's team members I've had that didn't work out, and I don't like using my platform. I don't want the rest of my crew to think, if they work on one of my books, that one day I'm going to use my platform to destroy their career. You know what I mean? That's one of the many reasons they should have just paid me the money, and we just would have gone our separate ways. But again, they did what they did, and it was kind of like, as my last resort, I just kind of made it public that they weren't paying me, and then they basically gave me shit for about 3 solid days, but like really weak shit. Good. That's not professional. That has no place in comics. Yeah, I mean, it was really kind of weak shit too. It was it wasn't like the arguments I was getting were like, I was being unprofessional for airing the grievances, but he was being professional for not paying me for a shitty work, and I don't know. That's the real. In fact, if I don't like a team member's work and it's halfway through a job, I always negotiate a kill fee with them. It's called a kill fee. No, I understand kill fees are. And I always make sure that they're well taken care of. So I go, can we negotiate this price? Can we negotiate that much? And two parties have to agree. Often it means I have to pay for the whole job, even though I'm cutting them halfway through. I'll pay them for the whole job and say, look, I'm sorry, this isn't working out. And I'll go and hire another artist to recolor everything they've done also. So,
well, as far as I know, no, I do definitely that they're recoloring everything I did. Like they're starting from scratch.
okay, so at least that's fair. But it didn't pay you for the work that you did. How many pages
Correct.
did you do?
They owe me for 17, so they owe me. And
that's significant. Yeah.
And I'd given them like a 20% discount on those pages, which this makes it feel even more petty. But that's basically what happened. You know,
those kinds of problems are going to happen in crowdfunding comics, and while companies like War Campaign are still figuring out how to treat artists, over the long run, they will eventually, you'll fall right into the slots of the way people usually work professionally, because you'll learn it after years. They'll learn it. But just, I see a lot of like partnerships fall apart, unprofessional behavior and all that. That works itself out after crowdfunding comics. If they continue in this business for years, they'll work that out of their system. Yeah,
I guess it's a lesson we have to learn the hard way. But in the meantime, I'm out, $765, and like I had to pay my flatter, which is I can't stiff him the money. It's like he did the work, so I was like I'm kind of in the whole negative. But that's
$5 to $20 a page is out your. Well, hopefully some other people who like you will come in and give you some work, because you obviously do great work.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I'm kind of like semi-retired from comics at this point, just because it's just so hard to make a living at it, and just I've been beating my head against the wall for like 12 years. So
I hear you.
But I love comics. Like if I won the lottery, I would still color comics. Like it's just something I like doing. It's just too hard to like all this other bullshit.
Yeah. But what about just casually crapping out a web comic? So you don't have to pay for printing. You just throw up a page when you get a page done. It might be every week. It might be once a month. Look at the guy that does those alien comics, where they speak the weird language. It's real simple. You know what I mean? Nathan Pyle. Just do a comic like that. You're going for content. He ends up creating a thing that probably makes him $250,000 a year now, maybe $500,000 a year on this little license thing.
But I want to address something I saw pop up in the chat real quick. Someone said that I was going to flip to anti-Comicsgate. I am neither. I am my own person. I've had one Comicsgate client, which has been War Campaign, and many more that are not. So I'm my own neutral party in this.
If you're your own person, you're anti-Comicsgate.
Okay, but I mean,
I'm setting another trap.
But it's one of those things where I've had people who want me to declare that I am 100% Comicsgate, but I feel like declaring either one puts you in like a little hole that you can't get out of. Yeah. So I mean, I'm who I am.
Rational, normal people don't declare Comicsgate. Grown men don't declare Comicsgate.
Well, people can declare Comicsgate if they want. I mean,
they can. They're just not normal, rational men.
Well, like I had people saying that if I do crowdfunding myself, that unless I say I'm Comicsgate, they're not going to support me. And I'm like, well, that's okay. If you only support Comicsgate projects, I understand that. Sure. That's your right.
Stupid.
Sorry, I'm not.
I'm allowed to make fun of that, right? I'm allowed to make fun of that idea.
I mean, no one's going to stop you.
We have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Unless you're Comicsgate, you don't have a sense of humor.
But I mean, I feel that's legit. I mean, I know a lot of my punk rock friends won't buy like major label music, so it's like it's okay, fine. Sorry you're not buying my book, but But anyways, I mean, but it's not worth it to me to declare one or the other, because I don't really feel like I'm in either camp. I'm definitely not against Comicsgate, but I can see some.
Spec says, "Are you telling us that CG only War Campaign hired non-CG?" Apparently.
Well, yeah, their new colors under an alias because he's embarrassed to be working with them. I'm assuming. I use my real name because I'm proud of the work I do. So maybe embarrassed isn't an unfair way of saying it, but he definitely is someone who knows that there's a stigma attached to coloring for War Campaign. So. Let's hide who I am.
This is the scoop that War Campaign doesn't demand public CG only to work on their books because they're against their own brand.
Well, I mean, they told me that several times, like all they cared about was that people could do the work. They had the first Vestige has CG only, I think, on the back of it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, they have yet to send me any of the Vestige books. The first one, I have not gotten those in the mail ever, so I've never seen a copy of the first one.
Unprofessional.
But yes, CG only. I believe that was on the back cover, if I'm correct.
Well, they did hide it on the back, so you got to respect them for that, for at least hiding CG on the back. That lends credibility to any book.
Yeah, I think I remember the one time I was on the War Campaign show, they were really not happy with you, Doug. So I think I'm getting the vibe here.
It says, Doug, Berserk Guts, it looks like you have gel on your forehead. Kind of looks like jizz. Uh-oh. Do I have gel on my forehead?
Might just be the light shining off your forehead.
Might be jizz. Yeah, I think I'm just have a shiny forehead.
But yeah, congrats on a success you've had with crowdfunding. What was the other one? Bigfoot Bill?
Bigfoot Bill 1 and 2. 2 is going to deliver next month. And then we're going to launch Earthworm Jim 2, probably on Kickstarter next month is what we're aiming for, unless they cancel me them all. I'm going to do Indiegogo also. I'm just trying to lead with Kickstarter and then do Indiegogo.
Was there a lot of like hoops you have to jump through with Kickstarter? Like they were basically not hiring, but like allowing you to come on there if they didn't like you as a person. Am I hearing that right?
We're gonna find out, because I know they don't like me as a person. It's kind of a challenge to see.
But they're going broke, aren't they? So they're going to take whoever.
Yeah, well, I mean, from what I understand, like it's like the comic division that was like losing all the money. It wasn't so much all of Kickstarter. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, the owner of Kickstarter put out a press release recently saying that they're losing money still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't think they've turned a profit yet.
Don't you assume, Oz, that most Silicon Valley companies are still not turning a profit? Even YouTube and Twitter, like it's all stock money.
It's one of the biggest scams of the 21st century. The fact that Amazon has yet to make a profit after 20 years, and yet it's still one of the highest grossing, like highest price.
Lyft, Uber. The model is they make money on stock, selling their stock at exorbitant rates.
And look at Tesla. I mean, geez, Tesla is valued more than every other motoring company combined, yet they put out nothing.
The craziest thing I've seen as I got really into this was the whole Theranos story. You guys are familiar with that?
The what?
Theranos story.
Theranos, yeah.
Yeah, there's a book and there's
the weird chick with the deep voice.
Yeah, the fake deep voice. Yeah, the whole thing about her and her company, like, because it was a medical company, but it basically ran on Silicon Valley rules, and it was just basically a big fraud. Like that's insanely interesting. Like, it's such a weird story of like, how did this happen? Like, how do we get this far? But yeah, but like, there's all these clips of her like not using her deep voice, which is kind of funny. Yeah,
kind of like Larry the Cable Guy is a fake redneck.
Well, the real quick, Doug. This woman wanted to be the Steve Jobs of the medical profession, and basically had this idea for like something the size of like a computer printer that would test your blood, and the computer inside would test your blood, and then it would like email basically.
Oh, yeah, I remember
like a pharmacy. Yeah, so it was like it was a big thing. Like if it would have worked, it would have been revolutionary, but it just never worked.
Yeah, it was a huge scam, and she was nuts.
Yeah, but it was like one of those things where it wasn't entirely a scam, because like they really did think at one point they were going to be able to make this work, but they were really doing a lot of like really horrible things until it did work. Yeah, it's really fascinating of how it all went down, and how like there's people like Walgreens who are basically kept investing in it, but they knew it wasn't working, but they're like, well, she does figure this out, and then our competitor gets it, we're sunk. So we got to keep giving her money, even though we know this is just a lie.
There's a documentary on this, right? It's on
there's a couple. I think HBO has one that I've seen. And I think there might be the book is fascinating that they made too, about the guy who wrote the story. But it's Silicon Valley. Like there's a lot of like.
She's just like essential oils with a little more science.
But there's a lot. I mean, there was old Doug probably knows this. Like back in like the 90s, there was like tons of like these small comic and IP farms that were like, you know, in the wake of like Men in Black and stuff, who were like got all this angel investment, and then kind of just went under, you know, all of a sudden.
Like Allegiance Arts.
Well, the one I was thinking of
I'm kidding, Allegiance Arts.
The one I was thinking of offhand was like the people who came up with Zin the Intergalactic Ninja.
Yeah.
Where they had like one comic and then they had a video game and like a toy line and like it was just like instantly. And then
isn't that Don Chin? Isn't that Don Chin? Didn't he do that?
I don't know who did it, but
because Don Chin, he actually technically published one of my first comics. I did a pen name for a Jurassic Park parody for Don Chin. And he was going to do that radioactive intergalactic black belt hamsters with Ethan. I know John Chin forever. He's a Christian brother and good buddy. He gave me one of my first shots with one of his parody comics I did under a pen name.
But yeah, but I just remember those days, there was a ton of stuff like that kind of came out of nowhere, then hit like a bunch of stuff at once, and then kind of just went right back to nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, they were pushing it as the next big thing. That was right after Ninja Turtles they were trying to do. And the same thing with knockoffs like radioactive black belt hamsters. Those are all knockoffs of Ninja Turtles.
And like there's what's his name, Silvestri. Didn't he do Bucky O'Hare? That was like another
Bucky O'Hare, which didn't that technically predate Ninja Turtles?
I don't know, but
mid 80s.
But there was a lot of things like that like all of a sudden were like one comic and then they were a toy line, then they were a video game. There was what Cadillacs and Dinosaurs was like another one.
Yep, and Biker Mice from Mars was another one they rolled out.
So yeah, there's like a bunch of stuff that hit like in these really quick succession of these people invest all this money in it, and it was like everywhere, then it was gone. You know, kind of. And
that was Earthworm Jim got right in that sweet spot. We came in the wake of Ninja Turtles is where, and Playmates Toys, the company actually funded our video games. So I'm just saying, there was a lot of money trying to be Ninja Turtles when they thought if we just follow that formula, it will work. And everyone floated everything up and it did not work. Battletoads, whatever. It's like, it just wouldn't work.
I feel like Earthworm did better than most.
It did, because it was a legit good character. It was not just a knockoff, and it was a legit good game, good TV show. It could stay. That was one of my rules, was every medium that it works in, it has to be strong within that medium. It can't just be the name slapped on it. So if it's a video game, it has to be a great video game on its own, even if no one's ever heard of the character, right? Because no one did hear of the character. And then in the TV show, I go, it has to be a great TV show. It can't just be kind of check the boxes and barf out and repeat yourself. So that was kind of, the toy line had to be like great play value in the toy line.
Yeah, the equivalent these days seems to be like indie video games. Or if you go to Walmart, there's toys for like Five Nights at Freddy's and what's that, like Bindi and the Ink Machine. It's kind of strange how quick those,
That's the new market. The indie stuff. This is the way it's going to be, because the corporations are they're big, they're bloated, they've always been uncreative. They can only repeat themselves and spend more money, using their size to spend more money to give, Thor more removable hands and stuff like that.
Matthew Fowler, I have to take umbrage with this. He says the first TMNT game was trash. I enjoyed playing that on the NES.
I was going to say, is he talking about the first NES game or the first arcade game?
First NES.
The first arcade game. I played the arcade game and it's trash.
Arcade game was
the four-player Ninja Turtles game.
Yeah, the side scroller.
Yeah, I like that one.
I love that game.
I remember the NES.
They're just button mash though. There's no skill to it.
No.
Well, you put a quarter in.
It's all timing, especially if you play Donatello. It's all timing, because as you hit them, you can flip them at the same time.
But all those games, those like 4-player mash 'em up games. I mean, they're all just basically created to eat your quarters. They weren't really. There's never going to be like a strategy guide for like the 6-player X-Men.
Yeah. When I got married, and this is another interesting story you'll be fascinated by, Oz. When I got married in 1990, the best men in my party, right? They take you out for a bachelor party, but this is like the Christian version. They put me in a red dress and put a blue wig on my head, and we went to the 7-Eleven and played that Ninja Turtles game, 4-player, and we finished the game together.
So
all the way through.
Dressing up in drag is the Christian version of a bachelor party.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was for me. I had all artsy weirdo friends, so that's what we did.
Do you have any photos, Doug?
I know there's video out there somewhere of me playing that game in a red dress and a wig.
But yeah,
why have I not seen that?
6'8" in a lovely red evening number.
Right. Honey Thunder says, why does Doug thinks he's straight?
It's a good question. Good question.
Sam Bagogo says,
I only
Doug
identify as straight.
maple.
I don't know how I was born. I was only identify as straight.
I feel like this is another trap.
It is.
There's no traps on my show. I don't know why people they keep saying there's no traps. There's no traps. Look, I brought Doug Tenaple on. He's come on just for you to talk about art with him. Ask him some art related questions, Jason. This is your
art
chance.
stuff. And everyone in the chat, we got to get the views up. So you got to throw the link out on your social media. Throw the link out to this show on Twitter. Everything. Say Doug Tenaple is embarrassing himself on the Oz show again. Okay. Go.
Okay. Here's one. What I'm like as a colorist, one of my pet peeves that I see a lot of artists do is like spotting blacks too much.
Yeah.
Like I think it was the Todd McFarlane. When in doubt, black it out kind of thing. And I hate because that really interferes.
Mike Mignola does that too. Mike Mignola does it too.
Well, I would argue that that is Mike Mignola's style, and Mike Mignola does it like, I mean, it's like you can't have Mike Mignola art without those heavy blacks. But I see a lot of.
But he used the same excuse as Todd McFarlane. He said, "I can't draw legs, so I just fill them in silhouette."
Well, that's the thing. Like when people talk to me about coloring their book, and I always ask them like, "Well, what colors do you like?" And they always bring up Dave Stewart, who colors Mignola. That's always a red flag to me because they never seem to understand why Dave Stewart's colors work. The reason they work is because of those big flat blacks. It's like Dave Stewart didn't invent, making the whole background purple. But like you can't really color like Dave unless you have Mignola style like inks. So
he colored our Earthworm Jim cover too. The Earthworm Jim 2 cover where Mignola did the cover for it. Dave Stewart did the color on it.
Oh yeah. Dave Stewart, I mean, he's a nice guy. I've met him a few times,
I like him.
Kind of a quiet guy, but nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's one of those guys, like it seems like no one understands why he's a good colorist. I mean, I think he's a great colorist, but like it's like they always misunderstand like what his kind of genius is.
Yeah, and it's also if you do that much detail and design work in your black and whites like Mignola does, like Todd McFarlane does, you really don't want a colorist to come in and take over the show. You know what I mean? You have a lot less work to do on super detailed color work. I mean, a super detailed black and white work as a colorist, it just requires less work. Or I should say more design and more thinking and less like noodling and modeling everything.
Yeah, but I get a lot of amateur colorists who are not amateur pencilers, I should say, who don't understand that and just black out anything they can't draw, or like it always seems like it's like the only thing I can't do as a colorist is make something lighter. Like I can't make anything lighter. So like I get a lot of people.
Well, you can self-ink a line. You can self-ink a line and make it lighter.
Yeah, I could, but
sorry, I'm just interrupting you for a sec. Berserk Guts, I'm going to bring him on. He's not going to yell at anyone. He just wants to show me the pool party he's got going on.
Okay.
Sorry, continue.
I want to see this too.
Yeah, I feel like this is a huge trap, but let's go for it. Like
it's gonna be a poop floating in a pool.
Yeah, it's just supposed to see like some dude's dong.
It's gonna be a dead body floating in a pool with blood.
Well, that's gonna be on Oz because he can preview the screen share. So let's see this party.
See the pool party.
Oh, don't put any pressure on Berserk. Just continue about your conversation, and I'll see what he comes up with.
But that's one of those things, like, I don't think Frazetta gets enough credit for is like, if you ever seen his black and white ink stuff, like his design work as far as his blacks go is amazing.
I'm not showing you a pool party going on.
Turn your camera on, Berserk Guts. Turn it on.
I'm downstairs, dude.
Says, Berserk Guts has a bunch of dudes at his pool in banana hammocks.
Sure. There you go. Good morning, sir.
Where are the bikini girls, Berserk?
They're in the pool. I can't bring my laptop.
Did you tell all the hot ladies, you go, excuse me, I have to go inside on the computer for the Oz show during my pool party?
Yeah.
Can you ask one of the girls to come back and
No,
chat to
no. What is up with you? Like fucking trying to get people on the show that are women. Like, no, they're in the pool right now, dude.
her? Twitless says I was promised a pool party.
Dude, I can't bring my laptop up there. I don't even think my Wi-Fi goes that far.
Yeah, laptops aren't mobile or anything.
Yeah,
I was
it's
just
not
thinking the
they're
same
made to
thing.
be portable.
Well, maybe it's got really testy Wi-Fi. It can only, it only
Yeah,
works
it's
in the
not going to go
basement.
that far. I tried to stream from my pool before. It won't go
You know
that
how
far.
you get the girls down in the basement?
You know,
Tell them-
No, I
I
can
reckon
go
that
upstairs. It's
I
loud.
reckon that it's worth taking the chance, Berserk. And if your Wi-Fi
It's gonna
drops
cut
out,
out.
I'll forgive you.
Berserk,
It's
go
going to cut
upstairs.
out, dude.
We'll
No.
test
Berserk,
it.
go
We'll
upstairs
test it.
to the girls and tell them to come down to the basement because I'm on the show.
You don't want to see my strung out girls, so
Yeah,
I do.
I do. She
you
did she
don't.
message you?
Man, I feel like I'm really
Yeah, she's
missing
there.
something.
She's coming over in like 20 minutes. So, no, I just
Right.
wanted to say your barbarian that you colored was good too. Like the girl coming out of the water was good. I don't understand like what all this drama is for your colors, dude. Like, I mean, if they wanted it darker, they could have just told you that right away, and it
Yeah,
would be done.
again, you and me both. I don't really like. They love my stuff. Again, like the week before they fired me, and now it's like complete trash because I dared to call Roe out on not paying me. I don't understand the whole thinking in this.
Happens.
The Viking was cool. Like
Oh yeah,
like they should have gave you better criticism. Like I think both of you fucked up. I'm gonna say that right now. Like it's
Okay.
all emotions or something. Like maybe because were they harder on you with like Vestige 2 or something? Like
no, not really. It seems like a lot of things changed with them because it seems like they were like I said, like the week after they hired me, like they had some falling out with Ethan, which I didn't really understand. But no, like I didn't really get any direction until they fired me. The only direction is Gat didn't like that cover, and I think that's him not liking that cover is what soured him on everything all of a sudden. Like now everything's shit. Like it was really just strange to kind of go through. Yeah, and again, like I really didn't want to bring this publicly, but like I was kind of at the point where, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm never getting that money, but like it's kind of like, well, I mean, maybe you won't screw over the next guy. I mean, it's not.
Is that why you released the pages that weren't released yet, or?
Most of those were released in black and white, I think. The reason I released them is because they were
I don't think the Viking was. The Viking wasn't. That was the first time I saw it, I think.
Okay, maybe it wasn't. I know, like the pages with like the girl coming out of the water, they had put those up in black and white. But anyways, like I mean, the reason I released them is because the reason they're giving for not paying me is I was doing shitty, incomplete work, and I was, at least I can show you that even if you don't like them, they're complete. So that's bullshit. Because that was the narrative they were giving is all my stuff was shitty and incomplete. So that's why I put the actual pages up. Because I public record of like, maybe you don't like them, but they are complete. They were not.
I think the barbarian and her coming out of the water are real good. I think it's more like the bisexual lighting shit they had a problem with or something. Like, I don't know, but like I can kind of see what you were saying. Like, do you want to date in time, like exactly like at the top of the comic where you're in? Like you were going with the flow of the comic, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, like the bisexual lighting thing. Have you ever seen the first Vestige, Berserk?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you remember like the part in there with like the I was trying to explain to them with like it's like almost a dream sequence, but there's like the previous people who had like artifacts.
Yeah.
It's
it's
completely bisexual, and that was Roe's favorite thing. So one of the things he said when we were doing this is like, "Oh, I want more of that." So that
like they do dildo and shit memes like all the time.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's like too.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you can go.
That barbarian page was supposed to be reminiscent of like that dream sequence from the first issue. Like a lot of I tried to do kind of like if you got both of them like with that perk, you could read both of them and it's like a continuation of the same story. But again, like motif. But again, like I mean, that's kind of what I do. I mean, if you don't like my bisexual coloring, I mean, that's fine. If you like someone else's colors, cool. But like, it's like that's kind of what I do. That's what I did on the first book. It's not like I surprised them with like this insane, like different coloring style from the one I did on the first one. You know.
Well, it was more. I don't think it was the bisexual shit. I think it was more like you flooded it with orange. But I understood what you were doing. Like it's like oil lamps and shit. Oil lamps and like early light bulbs will have a real yellow orangey hue. Like they will.
Oh, exactly. And then like if you again, this is not going to make sense to anyone who doesn't own both books, one of which hasn't come out. But like the very end of Vestige 1, Maddie comes into this bar. And it's flooded with like the oil lamps from outside. She's like flooded with that orange light. So the first time you see her in the first book is just like right after that happens. So she's got that same light hitting her. So yeah, I mean, I was trying to make it look like old timey streets with light. I mean, again, maybe I did it too much, but that's a note to give me, you know.
Well, I'll just say this right. I said it before, but like the girl in the doorway with the gun, like yours is like lit up from behind her in the building.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
The other building is like completely dark. Like you wouldn't see the bodies in that room. Like there's no light source in the room. Like I understand what you were trying to do. Maybe you should have just talked to him more. Like,
well, that was one of the pages they liked, though. I mean, that was up on their campaign. Like when I turned it in, and that's just like again, I don't want to say anything bad about Doodle, but Doodle tends to like black out stuff like backgrounds where like I kind of felt like it was too blacked out on the original inks. Like it looked more like an archway rather than a building you're looking into. That's why that light's coming out of there. And I actually made like the sky kind of like a more of a blue as well, so it didn't blend in with the building. But again, that was my artistic choices. If the new guy is doing a job they like better, okay, you know.
Doug she's not here yet. Like, she's coming in 20 minutes. Like, what do you want from me? Like, you want me to go show you my pool? Like, I can take a picture of it. I'm not on Facebook.
Why did you tell me you were having a pool party?
Dude, she's not here yet. My phone's over there.
Tell me that.
Well, I might have to cut out. Like, I cut out before because like I was on the phone with her, and then the link was gone. Right. And I said I have a pool party in like 20 minutes. That's what I said. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Like
in 20 minutes. I'm gonna go back.
No, I'm having a pool party. They're just not here yet. They're showing up in like 20 or 30 minutes. And yeah, she's like strung out. I think she's on meth. I don't know. My last one was on heroin, so maybe I'm like upgrading. Maybe like she's skinny as fuck though. I don't care.
Meth is a downgrade, but I can think of cool people who are addicted to heroin, but I can't think of any cool people who are addicted to meth. You know.
That's true.
Like jazz musicians are addicted to heroin. I mean, who's addicted to meth?
She doesn't really drink, but like I don't know what she's on. Yeah, I'm having a pool part. I should have said having people over, and I have to get my phone. So yeah, I'll drop out, dude. I just want to say, both of you would be your nuts. Gat was being crazy on D Live and shit like me. So I don't understand what this is. So. Like,
I mean, I kind of don't either, except for the fact that they're really trying to figure out a way to justify not paying me. Like, if my work is good and complete,
it's $700.
I've had some theories of that people are floating because neither of those. Well, I won't say that, but like I've had some people who think that part of the reason is they're not making as much money on this one as they were the other one, and they're just trying to cut costs. But even then, like I think it's just. What I was saying earlier is Gat doesn't want to write down things. So it was easier for him to fire me than actually to write down what he wanted me to like change. Cause I asked him several times for specific notes that he couldn't provide because I guess that used to be Steve's job. Now that sounds stupid, but that literally sounds like what's going on. Like it was easier to fire me and do all this bullshit rather than like write down like on a piece of paper, like what I should be changing to make him happy. That's weird, right? I mean, like,
the whole situation's weird, dude. No, I think I'm gone.
But it's normal for normal for stuff to not work out. Stuff doesn't work out all the time.
Yeah,
People
I mean, it's
shake it up. You get fired. You quit. Whatever. They don't pay you. You move on.
But it's definitely it's an amateur move. You know, most people pulling this bullshit didn't have a successful campaign. You know. Previously,
yeah, but it kind of talks like Gat is like he's like critiquing everyone now. Like he was going after Tug on the last D Live stream and like a couple other people. Like and Cecil could have really hit them for changing you, like because they were going after him for a cover that he fucking ripped down for Moss and shit. but like they switched their whole fucking colorist, and he didn't really. He could have went after him, and I think he was like tame on that. And then like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I was he was one of the few people who jumped in that I like recognized when I was getting shit from War Campaign to say,
Yeah, but what did Cecil say? Like, I think he was just like,
yeah, he was just like, well, that's what you get for throwing down with those guys. But at least he kind of said something. But,
yeah, but
I've had a lot of people.
Bad.
I've had a lot of people get a hold of me in private who are like, I've been kind of biting my tongue, but I think I should say something. And I'm like, okay, well, let's hear it. Like just me so far. Battling their legal team, quote unquote, of experts.
Does your semi girlfriend hookup chick? Does she have bad teeth?
No. I don't think so.
Are her cheeks sunk? Are her cheeks sunken in? You said she was skinny.
She's more skinny than you, Doug.
That's skinny.
Does she steal your copper wiring?
How do you know I'm an electrician? I was just hanging late earlier too, so yeah, I'll drop out. I'm gonna go
steal copper.
Where are you going to this?
Oh no, like I was telling those guys,
I have to drop out, man.
I was telling those guys that I
have to get ready. I have to go.
I work for a chain hardware store.
What?
Dude, I got hot tub. I got my hot tub ready. I got my pool ready. I'm going up, and I'm gonna get drunk and just chill. So just let me do my thing, please. And like, she's weird, man. Like her fucking ex is in jail and shit. So I don't know.
When do we get to meet her, Berserk?
You're not meeting my girlfriend. Fuck off. I'm right up. All right. Have a good one, guys. I hope everything works out for you, Jason. And Doug, I hate you. And Oz, good show.
Yeah, good meeting you, brother.
Thanks. I feel strangely unsatisfied.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I was just not getting the joke on whatever that was. But
there was no joke there. There was no inside joke.
But yeah, I mean,
he just tell the truth.
But yeah, I mean, he had some points. I mean, yeah, it's maybe you don't like my bisexual lighting, quote unquote, but like I don't see where they're like proving me wrong, with any of this stuff.
Yeah. Why are they mad at your bisexual lighting when they have bisexual writing? I don't get the big deal.
Yeah, it's just a strange, like, I guess it's just like their motive is to fight everyone who comes at them even slightly. So I mean, they saw me as coming at them. So
but
now
to be fair, that is their brand. So you knew what you were walking into.
Yeah, I mean, and again,
buyer beware.
I think I was expecting to be much worse, to be honest with you. I got like 12 guys over like 24 hours kind of yelling at me, and none of them really made any really good points.
Yeah, and they're all the same guy doing 12 puppet accounts, so it's cool.
Yeah, I had someone DM me. They're like, "Oh yeah, these 5 guys are the same guy."
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a lot of people like using these like really like sketchy, not even sketchy, but just like stupid legal arguments about how they can sue me into oblivion.
Yeah,
for not. It was just kind of like that was kind of weak. I was like,
they don't know what they're doing. I had them after me for all last year. Not a big deal. Same puppet accounts, same guys. They were largely harmless. Just block or mute. But don't let them discourage you from doing great comics. It's not fair to judge your next client by what your last one did, because your next client will not be War Campaign, so they won't act like them.
Yeah.
Same with your next audience.
Jason has a lot of experience working with larger companies, like doing work on Scooby-Doo and other licensed properties.
Oh, did you do that flash that's on your avatar?
Yeah.
Well, that's very, very good.
Yeah, that's by a guy who was doing Deadpool for a while, but yeah, it's just some like sample pages he did. I offered a color.
Those are fantastic. Looks great.
Thanks.
Looks like watercolor from here.
Yeah, it's one of those things where this is a little bit more elaborate than my usual coloring style, but again, they're portfolio pages.
That looks good.
Well, thanks. But yeah, it's I kind of do what I do, kind of thing, which is kind of bizarre when like you're fired for being terrible. It's like, wait, did you not see the work I did on your first book? Like.
Yeah, but if you there's probably you don't want to work with them. You want to work with partners that are like you. And same with War Campaign. They want to work with partners that are like them. Yeah. Like that's the brand is the creator and their team. And there's going to be values differences where you're just not going to get along with certain teams. But you'll go find people that are like you that you have a blast working with, and you'll want to be on that team. So
yeah,
go do that.
Well, like Doodle, I mean, I really liked working with Doodle. And like I said, we're talking about doing more stuff in the future, which it seems like it's probably going to happen, but nothing's fall apart. I kind of know not to say 100%, but yeah, Doodle's not like them.
You should do a book called Better Than Vestige and run that one up the crowdfunding flagpole. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, one thing they didn't like is I was floating the idea of maybe selling prints of the pages I had colored to recoup my money.
Yeah.
And they didn't like that at all. They were threatening to sue me over all sorts of things, but it's like, you haven't paid for these pages.
Yeah. And they would be right. You don't have the print rights, even if a contract falls apart. This is the thing, is no one wants to get involved with a lawsuit. You or War Campaign should be threatening lawsuits, because that is, you just don't want to be in court. It's so stupid. These people that threaten lawsuits don't know what a lawsuit's like.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not threatened any kind of lawsuit, but I floated out the idea of the limited edition prints a couple of times, and they just, mainly just to irk them, but they don't like the idea of that at all.
Yeah, but
Doug, did you have to refund, or did Sean have to refund you when he pulled the cover, or what happened?
He did that as a friend, so he didn't. I didn't have to pay him for it. He didn't charge me. So that was a buddy thing, and that's also why I didn't mind losing it, because it didn't cost me money. And in fact, when he announced that he was pulling the cover, or we agreed, that wasn't just him, it was a mutual decision. I got like $5,700 in backers on that day. So it ended up being more than I would have paid for a cover anyways. I did very well out of that thing.
Yeah, I've had people ask me how they can help me out, with the money I've lost. And my main my thinking behind that is it's not your job to pay their debt. It's Roe's job to give me the money that he owes me, not, I'm not going to put up a GoFundMe to get the money back.
But they may want to buy a print from you. They may want to have them. They should message you and commission a print. Look at his flash work. Do you want some of that hanging on your wall, one of a kind? Why don't you pay him for it?
Certainly, I'll. If anyone wants me to, color one of their pinups or something, get a hold of me. But as far as just giving me money to replace the money that Roe wasn't giving me, I don't agree with that. But yeah, if you want to buy some prints or whatnot, I got plenty sitting around the house, collecting dust because there's no conventions anymore.
Right.
So, but yeah, but I mean, again, it's I like the sentiment of help me out, but again, it's their job to pay me the money they owe me. I'm not trying to make bank off this. I'm just trying to get the money that I was owed.
It's just you're going to spend more than $1,700 worth of calories trying to get that money out of them. You could knock out another book and make double that, maybe 5 times that for the same amount of time that it took you to color those 17 pages.
Yeah.
So why not do what's in your control instead of staying up all night and worrying and spending efforts trying to work with things that are out of your control? I always say this: you can't change other people or the internet. You have 100% chance of changing yourself, and to monetize that change in yourself is an incredible, powerful, you're not a victim way to go. And now you're killing the universe again. So do that.
Tolfer here in the chat, he's got a fantastic book that he's working on.
There you go.
He says, I'd like to see a page of my artwork colored. How would he go about doing that if he wanted to see that?
Just DM me. DM me and I'll, I only, for my indie price is about $55, depending on
That's cheap.
Yeah, but that's just an indie thing.
That's free.
Well, you heard it from Doug. It's a good deal.
I don't fart for $55.
But
Tree Goblin wants to know where my 3,000 viewers are.
Oh, it's coming.
Okay.
But yeah, if anybody, real quick though, if anybody wants,
so it's Christmas, Doug.
I mean, word has to get out that I'm on the show. That's what does it. Word has to get out. That's what I'm saying. You have to go out on social media and say Doug is peeing in the pool again on Oz's show, and you'll get 3,000 views. Guaranteed, it'll happen. That's why look back on the last shows, the ones that I'm on, they all get over 2,000. I'm good for it. People care.
But real quick, yeah, if anyone wants to hire me to color one of your pinups, I mean, just DM me on Twitter. It's the easiest way. We'll talk. Real quick, Doug, did I see you doing a podcast with that guy Nurkish and the dude from MST 3000? Was that a thing for a while?
We did a YouTube show called Saving Nurkish, where Mike Nelson and I tried to lead him to Christ. We had like 9 or 10 episodes. If you go to my YouTube channel, look up Saving Nurkish, and you'll see 9 episodes of us witnessing to Nurkish to no avail.
I felt like that was a weird dream I had. Like it was like one of those things. Like, what am I looking at here?
We were just having a blast.
But that was Mike Nelson from MST.
Michael
right?
J. Nelson, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It was kind of like, it was just one of those things like I happened upon, like just being like, what is going on here? Like
that's part of my show is it's performance art. It's like I try and find kind of delirious car wrecks to put together, and so you'll see different shows. I do You Can't Get There From Here with Charles Carroll. I do Night of the Puppets. We do 6 grown men doing terrible puppet shows, and the rest of them are just me draw streaming. Is what I do.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, like, from what I remember, it's like you guys were just like talking about coffee or something. There wasn't anything like really, but it was like, is this really what I'm watching? Like,
and Nurkish, she's like, coffee. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have a buddy around here who just loves all Nurkish's stuff, and I realize Nurkish is very controversial. So
he's not controversial. They're trying to make him controversial.
I'm not approving or
innocent.
I'm not approving or disapproving of Nurkish, but like, if anyone knows Nurkish, put up the silver skin.
Anyone
you did, because that's my friend's favorite thing ever.
The only people who've had a problem with Nurkish or have had bad things to say about Nurkish are all SJWs.
All right. Well, I don't. Like I said, I can see why people would not like him, but I don't know him or anything. I'm an outside guy, so I
only see why SJWs don't like him.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I'm trying not to fall in any traps where I've got beef with more people. but yeah, if anyone knows Nurkish, tell them to put the silver skin review back up, because my buddy really liked that.
Sure. We text each other so I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what people always want to know, if I know Cecil. Then there's a smaller degree of people want to know if I know Nurkish, and I don't know.
Nurkish was the funny one of the two. He was the true comedian.
Yeah, I remember his thing he did with Cecil. They had like a live stream though. I remember that being really funny.
That was all. Nurkish was the funny one.
But it's one of those things. I know those two had a falling out, and I'm not really sure what happened. But it's just kind of one of those things. Like, as
Cecil works well when other people are carrying him, but he repeats himself a lot. Repeats the same thing, which is kind of a branding thing. Nurkish is actually a really funny writer.
And the other thing is, like, in my neck of the woods is
it's too bad I split up Cash Grab. It's too bad I went after that.
But like I said, that's
that partnership up.
That's one of those things, like, as an outside observer, I just missed whatever podcast that was. It explained that thing, but I won't make anyone go over it. But I will say, speaking of people like that, in my neck of the woods is the guy who works with Nasser a lot. He was another of those guys, like, I just saw around, and then I just didn't see him anymore. I don't really know what happened to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, he's a guy, like, we talk about, like, kind of Comicsgate stuff, and he's a super nice guy. But yeah, he's done like a couple of books with Nasser.
Which one was he? Was he the one that did Dr. Satan? Is that the one?
No, I think he did that first, whatever the first book was at Nasser.
Starcast or Starlight or whatever.
Yeah, he's got a very, very distinct kind of very like kind of ink washing.
His work was
style.
good. His work was good in that book.
Yeah, he sells tons of prints at the local conventions. But
cool.
yeah, people always come up to him and ask him like all these Comicsgate questions, because he's a little bit more out that working with him than I was at the time. And yeah, people are always asking him,
So he has less gravitas and a little less talent, is why.
Again, falling in a trap here. But
always.
But yeah, but he's someone like people like. I mean, I live in West Virginia, so I mean, not exactly in the middle of the comics hub, but like people are always asking.
I live in Tennessee, same thing.
But people are always asking him questions about like everything Comicsgate, because he knows he works with Nasser, and it's like it's kind of crazy how well the whole thing's caught on. Like asking him questions about like Richard Meyer and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Comicsgate's big, kind of like how Kardashians are big. It's big. It's
more like how country music is big, where it's like, I don't listen to country. I don't know anyone who really listens to country, but like country music is huge. And there's people out there who know all these country stars and stuff. And it's weird how underground it is.
Has actual country fans. Comicsgate's more like Florida, man.
Well, it's weird how like underground it is for being how huge it is, like country music. Like there's like, if you don't watch whatever that CMT network, I mean, it's just, yeah, these people sell millions of albums.
The number one music sales in the world are country. The number one listenerships on radios across America is country. They are the number one music business in America.
Yeah, but it's crazy how much no one talks about it for being as big as it is. You know, like that's what's weird about it. Yeah, it's like, and if country music fans buy CDs, I mean, they physically purchase music. But yeah, again,
I just saw a guy chat and say that Cecil went for the money. So did Berserk's girlfriend. Some people can't be bought.
Okay.
People who can be bought, you know, their teeth are falling out of their head.
Lord Craig Speck says, Doug, wah, 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 Comicsgate, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. It's good. That's pretty good writing. Good writing.
I immediately interpreted that as like a guitar wah-wah pedal.
Or Charlie Brown, wah, 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 Comicsgate, wah, wah, wah. I think it's based on the Far Side joke where the guy is talking to his dog and the dog only hears his own name. So it's like, wah, 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 Trixie, wah, 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 wah. Like that's all they hear, or all I hear, maybe. I'm trying to figure it out. You can't explain humor. You just got to roll with it.
It's true, Doug. We had this discussion last time.
Yeah, don't explain.
You can't explain humor.
Don't explain it. So I agree. That guy's comment was funny. I'm not sure why, but I'll give him a...
So Doug, since I'm talking to you right now, how many more Twitter followers can I expect? I think I've gotten one since we've been doing this.
Well, have you said what your Twitter name is yet?
No, it is Lewis Jason R.
So guys, if you want to give let me do your pitch. Guys, if you want to give a colorist who's open for work, if you're anti-war campaign and you really want to make them ill, then follow, what was your name again? Terrible name.
Lewis Jason R.
Lewis Jason R. Follow at Lewis Jason R on Twitter. If you really want to show them, then that's how you do it.
And let me add, if you don't care about comic war campaign, you just want a colorist, you know, I'm also there.
Yeah. Also, definitely don't play the middle, or you'll get squashed if you try to play the middle.
Yeah, but also, I mean, like, I want people to hire me because they like my colors, not because they hate these other people. You know.
Well, then you're definitely not Comicsgate.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see if that worked.
Yeah.
Oh, I got one more.
This guy.
I got one more follower. I got Dark Gift Comics followed me. So.
Oh, see, he's solid. He's a solid follow.
I got him, and earlier I got Geek of Death, the graphic novel. So yeah, I got 2 more followers to.
Do you post your work on Twitter? Could you promise them, like, if they follow you, you'll be posting your color work, so fans of colorists and people who are shopping for colorists want to see some good art? How about you?
I should probably get back in the swing of things on Twitter, since I haven't been doing too much like comic work. It hasn't seemed as prescient, but
you're not selling yourself. That's why you don't get followers. You tell them, look, you follow me, I will not bug you with a bunch of garbage on my feed. I promise I'll post at least 1 new color panel a week. And they go, that's a harmless follow. I'll do that.
Hey, I got 2 more. I got King Cobra. So thank you, buddy.
All right, have the moderators thrown your link in the chat yet?
Maybe. And I got a Yellow Flash.
Help a guy out.
Moderators, put the link in the chat, please.
And I think I got the Yellow Flash.
Look, I'm doing Oz's host job too.
Mm-hmm. Yellow Flash, who's a big he's not a creator, right? He's a big comics, like, just
he's a commentator. He's like Tug with 10 times the IQ and credibility and listenability. He's like Tug, but tolerable.
Well, yeah, I know who Tug is. Like, Tug followed me when all this work campaign stuff started going down. So yeah, I'm familiar with Tug because I like the tenor of Tug's voice.
Oh, I can't do it.
I think it's great.
Goober.
Well, we'll disagree on this one, Doug.
He lives like just and probably a half hour away from me in Tennessee.
And I also got the guy who's called in a couple times, Amit Rania. Am I pronouncing that right, Oz?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that again?
The guy who's giving you like $6 in super chats. Is it Amit or Amit?
Amit doesn't pay for super chats.
Oh, really?
Amit, you got to prove him wrong right now.
Okay. Amit, Amit is agreeing with your views of Soros. So that's probably why he's following you.
I mean, he's saying you're cheap. You gonna let that stand?
No, Amit lives in Indonesia, so I'm not going to ask for super chats from Indonesia.
Yeah, because it's like pesos. They can give you like 40,000 of their currency, and it's like 4 cents.
The flatter I use, he lives in the Philippines, and like their like pesos to dollars thing is crazy. So I remember like when PayPal first started like putting it into like automatically putting stuff in like the national currency. I was like, I thought I sent him like $5,000. Like, holy shit, what did I do? But then I was like, oh wait, it's in pesos. He prefers I send him USD, but like that was kind of weird that first time that happened.
I have a flatter in Czech Republic, and then she gets a great return for US dollars. It's good.
What's her name, Doug?
Radka Kavalkova.
Is she as high as your other colorist?
Well, she's a flatter, so flatters get paid less.
So she probably takes more drugs than your colorist then.
No, she's not a druggie. Wait, where did you get my colorist takes drugs?
I think she follows me. Is Radhika like
but there's Comicsgate, so they lied about my colorist.
I think she follows me on Twitter. Is she also an artist?
Yeah, Catherine Garner is one of my colorists, and Gabe El Taib is my other colorist.
No, I mean Radhika.
Oh, Radka, yeah. She might follow you, yeah.
I think she does follow me on Twitter. Like I kind of remember that name being an artist, so maybe I'm getting the people mixed up. But
you should pay Radka to flat your work. She'll save you a lot of time.
Yeah. Well,
she's very good.
I've got my dude Ludwig, but anyways, I just like that name for something stuck in my head. I was like, I think that's she also does her own comic work, right?
Yeah. Okay. Radka Kavalkova.
Okay. She'll be
She hates Comicsgate, by the way. That's how you know she's also you can trust her word, and she does good work.
Well, maybe she doesn't follow me then, but for some reason that name stuck out, and I was like, I think that's some artist that follows me, but I could be wrong. She'll be happy that we're giving her all this hype.
Yeah, she's good, really good person.
Okay, cool. And I got
Jason, before I end the stream, is there any specific art related question you'd like to ask of Doug?
I would say like Doug, you've got like I would say like your style, in my opinion, is a very like weird mixture of like very like say like almost more cartoonish animation art, but your inking style is almost very traditional. How do you come at that? It seems like almost just two worlds colliding in what you do, but it works beautifully. Right. Like I'm thinking of like the covers for Earthworm Jim. I mean, there's a very like traditional, almost like Jack Davis painting style, but it's a very like the art itself is almost cartoony or very cartoony.
So that goes into my influences. Is I'm very much animation influenced in the way that I pencil and draw, because as my pencil art, right? So it's going to be Warner Brothers, Disney, and there's a lot of other artists that are like that. Frazetta was like that. Frazetta's cartoon work, he'd do work for Al Cap. He did strip work all the time.
Yeah, that was his first stuff, right?
Yeah. So I'm just saying, and Kyle Baker, has an animator style.
Yeah.
But then I learned inking more from traditional comic guys. So the inking influence is more Frank Miller, Bill Watterson, Mike Mignola, Dave Stevens, who did The Rocketeer, were big influences on me. Oh, Will Eisner, who did, he is what the Eisner Award is named after. So I have a lot more, and including guys like, who's the guy that does Lemire or whatever it is? Jeff Lemire.
Yeah.
For the ink and brush, Paul Pope for the big Japanese horsehair sumi ink work, Jeff Smith, who does bone. So I have I'm a mutt of a lot of different styles, and I can never see my own style. It's just, I just draw the way I draw, and people see a style in it, but I'm barely holding on. I feel like my work is shit. Like I try my best to do better and better, and sometimes I just fall in a slump. And even if I'm in a slump, I'm going to finish a page that day, because I do 320 pages a year, no matter what, because I'm actually a professional comic artist, and I might be the only one.
Yeah, definitely. Like like I was just thinking of like the Eisner Contract with God
Yeah,
trilogy. Your inking
That's one of the
style
best-
reminds me of that.
I have copied so many of those panels into my work compositions. By the way, for those of you guys who want to learn to ink, get Will Eisner's Contract with God, because it's full of people wearing suits in normal buildings. So you'll really learn to draw kind of 90% of what most comics are made of, men with, wearing clothes and talking to normal people in kind of film noirish buildings. It's a great tutorial for guys who want to learn how to draw.
His 2 books on how to make comics, like comics
Yeah.
and sequential art, are like,
Yeah.
brilliant. But yeah, it reminds like
Zeno says, sorry to interrupt. Zeno says, at Oz Art Creations, did you consider changing stream time to catch more viewers? Do you think I'm deserving of more viewers? Do you, Zeno? Do you think that I'm under subbed and underviewed? Do you?
Well, it seems like
what would be a good time? What would be a good time?
You'd be fighting
slot for
everybody
you,
else if
Zeno?
you're in the evenings. Like this kind of morning stuff seems like it's your niche.
Mornings are good also because you do gain views during the entire day of people who find you. You do a show in the morning, but push the link out all day.
Well,
And
my theory
oftentimes-
is I enjoy artist drawing to my stream. So my idea is if yourself and Ethan and Kelsey Shannon, etc.,
Yeah.
drawing in the mornings, which they usually do, they
Yeah.
can put on my show and listen to it.
Oz, is there an R on the end of idea?
Idea.
In Australia, there is, yeah.
Okay. But I was going to say, Doug, the other thing I was going to say is like your painted work, even though I haven't seen a lot of it, reminds me of like when Jack Davis would paint for Creepy, like back in the 50s. Like it's kind of an interesting mix of kind of stuff.
I got a lot of Jack Davis in me, a lot of Alex Toth.
Oh, yeah.
I'll always look at like Bernie Wright's and all the greats before I draw, because I'm trying to just learn one little principle before I put that brush down on the paper. Maybe I'll bump something up a little bit somewhere. So, and I always surround myself with better artists than me, trying to keep doing better and better.
That's another good one. If you want to learn inking, Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein.
It's amazing.
That's still in print. Yeah, that's.
I was looking at if you look at the laboratory in Creature Tech with Dr. Jameson, you'll see some of the beakers and stuff from Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein.
Yeah, he came and he spoke at my college one time, and he actually had like, I don't think he had the pages from it, but I think he had some pages people commissioned him to do of like Frankenstein, the same style, and like those are amazing to see up close.
He was great. I had dinner with him at Comic-Con one year and his 16-year-old son, and I just could barely put 2 words together to him. I was so in awe.
Much like when I met you at San Diego.
There you go. See that? Tell all these comic skaters, tell all these kids in this audience just how big of a deal I am. Just how
Jason, tell everyone how amazing it is that you're talking to Doug TenNapel right now.
Well, actually, like I said, I when I was a kid, I loved Earthworm Jim. I mean, I love those video games, so it is kind of neat to talk to Doug. And again, I love Creature Tech. Although there's a big theory in War Campaign that I was paid to go against them, even though they fired me and stuff out of money. So this is definitely going to amplify that by like 1,000.
We don't talk about that in public, right, Jason?
That's
me and you.
It's going to be all Doug TenNapel paid Jason to go against us.
We're not going to talk about that little conversation we had.
You're not helping Doug.
To drain War Campaign of its credibility and just really set them up. I can't wait
for the dubstep remix of this.
Yeah, according to Comicsgate, I'm a worm that gets in a lot of people's ears, and I might have just gotten to you and dive bombed that War Campaign, just like I broke up Cecil and Nurkish and got into Mike's head, got into all these people's head. I have these amazing powers, in case you haven't heard.
Well, you got a lot of big personalities clashing with each other. I mean, eventually people are going to like fight.
And that really is what this, in all honesty, that is what this is independent businessmen and independent comics people. We're used to doing everything alone and doing it our way. When you put together your LLC and you're finally going to do your dream project, Richard C. Meyer is his own man, very independent guy starting their own business. Ethan, not Cecil so much. He just follows whatever Ethan does like a lapdog. But Roe, Mike Miller, Tim Lim, Nurkish, you can't put us all in the same room and say, go back to 2 years ago and just play together all night with no drama. And it was always destined to kind of blow up. And then different people find each other that they do get along with better. These are strong, independent personalities doing great work. And I think it's better if we all work independently.
Yeah. I'll just say, as someone on the outside looking in, it was kind of a disappointment when, you know, everyone wasn't friends anymore. But
Yeah,
again,
well,
I understand
they shouldn't have stabbed me in the back, and they shouldn't have used my name to bring credibility to their movement and bump up all this credibility only to cut me loose. That's what they shouldn't have done.
I was going to say, but
I'd still be around if they had.
Doug,
if they actually,
Lethal Diva wants to know whether you've seen my intro, my new intro.
I did.
What'd you think of it?
I don't remember it now. Can you explain to me? It has like your head on a black and white footage, right? Of something?
No, I've got a new intro.
What was the new one?
that was the one you showed today.
Yeah.
A new one?
Yeah.
Is this for the new show, the last 3 episodes?
Yeah.
I've seen it. I can't remember it.
Okay. Not memorable for Doug.
No.
Margaret Miracle says she cries every time. Well, Margaret, maybe I'll play it for you as an outro just for today.
Yeah. Real quick. Oz, thank you for letting me come on and kind of tell my side of things and just give me a little bit of a high profile. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me as well, Doug.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Anytime you want to come and hang, we'll talk and hang.
Cool, thank you.
One more time on your Twitter so we can get you some Twitter followers.
Lewis Jason R. Lewis Jason R at Twitter. So that's my handle.
This is a good guy, good enough to not take on the Comicsgate name, so follow him on Twitter. If you like an independent thinking, a man who stands on alone, who will put no leash on, who will kiss no ring, this is your guy.
And Rowan Gat, please give me the money because I know you're still watching.
Yeah,
Chris Stanley says,
pay your workers, or you will earn the reputation as the kind of guy that doesn't pay his workers. You don't want that. And he's got his side of the story too. I'm not speaking for him. I haven't heard him, but I already know I discredit him because he has CG only on the back of his book. I already know it's probably a lie.
Chris Stanley says, Ethan Mascaiva is on Az's channel with Gary. I don't know who Gary is, but I know who Az is. So if you guys want to switch over and check out EVS, tune in now. But
throw the link around for this show, guys. Get it out there.
Oh yeah, throw the link around.
This will get more views than that show over there. It's important. Get this show because, when I'm on, we got to get it up above at least 2,200, probably 3,000. When word gets out, it'll happen.
Oh, Az has got a paywall, really?
You don't want to go to that. Who do they think they are? That's garbage.
All right. We
love you enough to do it for free. We just love you.
Go about your day and, think about what's happened today. Think about the positive things that have come from this stream. Think about Jason Lewis and his predicament. Think about War Campaign and how furious they probably are with me at the moment. Or
think about Berserk Guts right now in a pool party with his crackhead girlfriend.
Yeah. All right. Is everyone happy with that? You happy with that, Jason?
Yeah, I think it worked out well.
Did you enjoy your time on here?
Yeah, it surprisingly flew by. I was just looking at the clock going, oh, wow, I've been on this since like 11.
Yep. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. And Doug, did you enjoy your time here today?
I did. I always have a good time on your show, Oz. You're a great host.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Well, I'll kick you guys out and I will play my intro as an outro just for Margaret Miracle. And I'll catch you guys later.
God bless everybody. Oh.
All right. What'd you think of that, everyone? Doug Tenaple has come on to tell you that you're all idiots. All of you. Idiot scumbags, I think were his exact words. Come on. Replay.
It's the Owl Show, bringing my love from me to you. The Owl Show, help me help you to help me help you. The Owl Show, bringing my love from me to you. The Owl Show, help me help you to help me help you.